I'm in the world, but not of it. I praise God every day and I love it. I say what I want and I say what they want. I stand for the truth and what's right and they don't. Life is simple, it's no puzzle. Common sense will tell you not to wear a muzzle. Fear no evil, trust no people. When in doubt, shout, I'm a believer. I fear no man, though the world is broken. God, shine your light on me. I fear no man, though the world is broken. God, shine your light on me.
I offend everybody, the left, right, in the middle. Blame my parents because I've been this way since I was little. It used to be normal, now everybody praying to crystals. No wonder why it's so easy for the devil to trick you. They treat you like dogs, pitting muzzles all on your faces, forcing kids to wear them in schools. Doesn't this seem outrageous? They ban Bible scriptures on TikTok.
Let's go to Target! Let's go to Target! We need some PlayStations! Let's go to Target!
I'm in the world, but not of it. I praise God every day and I love it. I say what I want and I say what they want. I stand for the truth and what's right and they don't. Life is simple, it's no puzzle. Common sense will tell you not to wear a muzzle. Fear no evil, trust no people. When in doubt, shout, I'm a believer. I fear no man, though the world is broken. God, shine your light on me. I fear no man, though the world is broken. God, shine your light on me.
I offend everybody, the left, right, in the middle. Blame my parents because I've been this way since I was little. It used to be normal, now everybody praying to crystals. No wonder why it's so easy for the devil to trick you. They treat you like dogs, pitting muzzles all on your faces, forcing kids to wear them in schools. Doesn't this seem outrageous? They ban Bible scriptures on TikTok.
Let's go to Target! Let's go to Target! We need some PlayStations! Let's go to Target!
I caught it. I caught it. I caught the mute. I thought I unmuted it. I unmuted it on the wrong channel. Echo sneezing. What up? What up? What up, William? What up, John? What up, y'all? It's Monday night. Kicking the week off right. Dreaded Conservative show. I got to echo. It's that time of the week. It's the Dreaded Conservative show. Let's get the show going. What do we got tonight? RFK stuff. I've been so focused on Elon and Trump. We need to see. I forgot about RFK. I totally forgot about RFK. So he's been making moves. Bro, he's doing some things. I like what he's doing. People in Seattle and Portland are freaking out. 40% of the women in those super liberal places, the place where they legalized all the drugs and everybody started dying, where they had Chaz and Chop, they're freaking out because guess what? Women ain't going to, they're not going to be able to give antidepressants to the children anymore. Wow. What kind of kid has time to be depressed? We're talking about depression with a 4-year-old. I don't know about 4-year-olds, but children on antidepressants. We knew they were overdiagnosing ADHD. All the evidence on that came out. They're still doing it. Still feeding the kids prescription meth. Then they feed the girls SSRIs. So the boys, they stifle their creativity and their energy and their need to go out on an adventure and have some fun and do fun things, and they make them just sit in a desk and go, oh, I'm a zombie. I'm going to just sit here and do my homework for 8 hours. Boys don't do homework. Boys go out and play. Girls are very emotional. They get sad. They get happy. They laugh. They cry a lot. So what do we do with the girls? We put them on antidepressants. We make them zombies. Just turn all the kids into drugged out zombies. RFK's putting an end to that Let's go. What up, John Deadman? Mister is bad. I don't know what that means. Or Mister is bad. I don't know what that means. But anyway, we're gonna talk about what RFK is doing. What do I got on points? FDA firings. No mo Transformers. We're coming for the Transformers, and they're not happy. Vaselines. He's looking at the Vaselines. You know what a Vaseline is? When I say Vaseline, if you haven't been around here long enough, the Vaseline is where they lube you up and they jab it up in there. They jab it up in you. When you're a kid, they'll jab you, they'll Vaseline you up. And they'll jam you with 22 different Vaselines before you even know what your name is. Yeah, John, I know. Well, I know. And it's not really your place as a granddad to do something about that, but yeah, I know. I hear that story all the time. I lived in this old lady's basement when I was homeless. I met her and I was doing yard work for her, and she said, "I have a basement room you can live in for free." I was like, "All right, cool." And so I moved into her basement room, and she was super liberal. And she had seen one of my YouTube videos, and she had seen me talking about this because this is something I really like. I don't like this stuff. Putting all the kids on pills. I'm very against it. And she saw me talking about it in a YouTube video, and she's like, "Well, there's my friend has a son, and he was not getting any of his schoolwork done, and he was doing bad in school, and they put him on Adderall, and now all of a sudden he's getting great grades, and he does all his work in school." And I was like, "Great. What do you want me to give you a pat on your back? You just destroyed that young boy for his whole life." Drug addiction rates go up when you start kids on drugs. Shocker. When you start kids on drugs at a young age, they're more likely to be addicted to drugs when they get older. Oh, shocker. Oh, who would have thunk it? They're more likely to end up in jail. It's retarded. Yeah, but great. He got some his C's in school turned into B's. And he can sit at his desk for 4 hours and just focus on learning how to do algebra that he's never going to use for the rest of his life. Awesome. Wow, what a good trade. And then he'll be hooked on meth when he gets older. When he gets tolerant to his Adderall. Excellent. Great trade. He's hitting and acting out. Well, that's because they put boys in classrooms that are designed for girls. Boys don't learn that way. I got a friend who has 7 kids, and he homeschools all of them. And you know what? They don't have a problem. They don't have a problem with acting out, because the way they school them, they just do the minimum they got to do to pass the qualifier test or whatever they got to do. And then they play. He's so smart. Yeah, and that's the thing. They if you're very smart, you get bored in class. And you're like, "Oh, this is dumb. I already know all this stuff. I don't really care about this. I'm not interested in this." And so instead of harnessing the brain power that they have and putting it towards things that they are interested in and that they could be great at, they shut it all down with dang drugs, and they make you learn a bunch of crap that you don't care about, that you're not going to use. I've never used slope intercept form in my entire life for anything. I knew what the Pythagorean theorem was in second grade. I could do I saw it on network local network television one night, like PBS or something, at my grandma's house. I remember this, like, for some reason, this memory has stuck in my head forever. I was laying in my grandparents' bed, which I usually slept in a different bed, but for some reason I was in their room watching their TV, laying in their bed. And it was like network local area television channel. And it was some old guy, and he was teaching about the Pythagorean theorem. And I was in like second grade, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I learned it. Then I get to like sixth grade or fourth. I don't remember when they started teaching it to us. I think they taught it to us at the Christian school in like fifth grade. And then when I got into sixth grade at the public school, they're doing it again. And I'm like, I already learned this when I was in second grade. And even when I was at the Christian school in fifth grade and they taught it to us, I was like, I already know this. And it was boring. But it was fun when I was little and I learned it. It was cool. It was like, oh, I could figure out what size straws I need for a birthday party by using the Pythagorean theorem. That's cool. Guess what? Never used it in my whole life. You just order the freaking straws and they work on cups. You don't have to actually do the Pythagorean theorem to figure that out. Or a ladder against a wall. Well, I just have the ground is this big. That's my A. And then the wall is this big. That's my B. If I use the Pythagorean theorem, I figure out the length of the ladder that I need to get up to the place that I need to get to. No, you just buy an extendable ladder and you just move it up to get it to where you need it to be. You don't have to do that. It's crazy. He remembers everything he hears or sees. Exactly. Yes. But you know what? I don't know this, but I would think I do kind of know this through experience. When you do drugs, your memory gets messed up. I don't remember I'm not as sharp as I used to be. I don't learn as quickly as I used to learn because I did drugs my whole life. And I wasn't even put on the medication as a kid, but if you are, your likelihood of that goes up. So we're going to talk about RFK and how a lot of people are pissed because he's shutting that stuff down. And so I'm going to be learning a lot of this with you guys because I haven't read all these articles yet. I just saw the headlines and I was like, what? Oh, let's go. Let's go. So we'll dig deeper into that. We're going to spend some time looking at this Hamas-Israel hostage situation. Earlier in the week, they released 4 hostages, and then one of them was like not a body of a hostage that Israel expected to get back. But it looks like that story has a happy ending because they actually ended up releasing the 4th hostage alive, I guess. Again, a lot of this stuff, with work and going to the gym and then streaming on Friday and Saturday nights, I don't have as much time to prepare the show as I used to. When I first started the show, I used to put a lot more time into prep. Now I kind of just see the headline, grab it, put it in, and then I read it with you guys. So we're going to find out about this Israel-Hamas terrorist situation. I also don't watch as much political stuff as I used to because I don't want it to influence what I say. So I used to watch Crowder every day, JLP every day, Fleckus and Slightly Offensive. Whenever they put out new stuff, I'd watch that. Now I just watch, now I just listen to like audiobooks and stuff while I'm at work and entertaining stuff like panels and I don't know, other stuff. No problem with the sidebar. It's relevant. And, I'm not surprised that we have somebody in the chat who's dealing with exactly what I'm talking about. But the problem is you're an old head. You're a grandpa. You're an old head. So you still think this way. I'm like an old soul. I think like a boomer a lot. So we see this and we don't like it. But the problem is a lot of these younger parents nowadays in this, not the current coming up generation, not the kids, but the parents, the generation before that, the millennials, they were like the ones that they tested all this on and that they were raised believing that this is the way. And now there's nothing you can tell them. They think, oh yeah, all the kids are on medication, so let's just put them all on medications. And then the old heads are like, this is not good. And look, we're seeing the bad results of it. You're not listening. What's old? Well, he's 49. An old head. I don't know. He's got grandkids. That's an old head. He's not old. He's not like geriatric. That's not what I mean. What up, Sport Brand? What else? We got more plane stuff. We got people who probably shouldn't be parallel parking trying to land planes upside down. You're not Denzel Washington. This is not the movie Flight. You cannot land the plane upside down, ladies. We got and then in the last bit, for the last probably, depending on how long it takes to get through all this, we're going to spend a little time at the end talking about the contingency argument for God. I did a series a while ago called Arguments for God, and I went through a bunch of different ones, but I never did tag, and I never did, I guess you would call it CAG, the contingency argument for God. It kind of just ties in with the Kalam and with the modal argument. Not the modal argument, the is that what it's called? The modal argument? The possible universe thing, best possible universe, something like that. But anyway, we'll talk about the contingency argument at the end. The example that I gave about the glass of water in the room is actually a bit of a stretch from what the argument actually is, but it's a good example to make people understand it. So we'll talk about that at the end. So contingency argument, RFK, Hamas, and then some stuff in rapid fire news. Let's get into this. From NBC News, Kennedy thrusts antidepressants into the spotlight as doctors and advocates defend them. Of course they do. Of course they do, because a healed patient, a patient healed is a patient lost. A patient healed is a patient lost. When you're doing pseudoscience and you want to convince people that they're mentally ill, you can't make them mentally healthy. You just want to pump them full of pills. In his first meeting with staff, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said Tuesday that he intends to address the possible over-medication of children and the risks of antidepressants, according to an employee in attendance. The promise echoed an I need to breathe. Hold on, I'm hyped up. Calm down, Josh. Calm down. Yeah, the contingency argument. Yes. Okay. The promise echoed an executive order that President Donald Trump issued last week establishing the Make America Healthy Again Commission, which he tasked with reducing chronic diseases, particularly among children. Trump made Kennedy the chair. The commission's agenda, per the order, includes looking into whether antidepressants are being overprescribed to children. Trump asked for a report that assesses the prevalence of and threat posed by the prescription of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs. Known as SSRIs, this class of antidepressants increases levels of serotonin, which anybody who's read anything about psychology after World War II, like this is like a Nazi era idea that depression is based off of chemical imbalances in the brain. It's not true. It's not true. There's never been any evidence for that. It's been debunked repeatedly. And people still push this idea that I have a chemical imbalance. That's why I'm depressed. No, you don't. That's not what causes depression. It's a spiritual ailment. It's not a mental illness. It's not a chemical imbalance in your brain. It's a spiritual ailment. Go to the gym, get a job, work hard, read some books, get smarter, do some activities, draw something, freaking get a hobby, and actually don't just pick up a hobby and then throw it down and start a new hobby and throw it down. Work on something, get good at something. When you focus on doing all these things to better yourself, you don't have time to be depressed. Men should not have time to be bored and depressed. If I hear a man say, I'm bored, I want to smack him. I'm like, What do you mean you're bored? You have time to be bored? You're a grown-ass man. You should not have any time to be bored. I wish I had time to be bored. How you got time? If you have time to be bored, take a nap. Get some sleep. I wish if I had time to be bored, I would love to take a nap. But I don't have time. I don't even have time to get the amount of sleep I wish I could get. Which could lead to depression if you're not getting enough sleep, guys. That could lead to depression. If I had time to be depressed, I might get depressed. If anybody has a right to be depressed, it's me. I got a depressing ass life. That's a joke. In recent years, Kennedy has criticized what he sees as an overuse of these drugs, suggesting they can be addictive and carry dangerous side effects. No duh. I know people, including members of my family, who've had a much worse time getting off SSRIs than people have getting off heroin, he said during Senate confirmation hearings. It's an anecdote, but it's true. Yeah, I mean, probably because heroin's a street drug, and it's whereas the SSRI is a prescribed thing that there's a doctor giving it to you. Like, it's harder to get off methadone than it is to get off heroin because you have a place where you go in and people in lab coats give it to you in a little cup every day. So in your mind, it's okay. So it's harder to get off. It's harder to get off cigarettes because they're at every gas station you go to and they're just right there in front of you. And there's signs up and commercials for them and things like that. Speaking of that, Trump says he talked to some lady in Mexico. I guess there's a lady running Mexico now. He talked to her and he's like, how come you guys don't have a huge problem with like drug addiction down there? Even though you got cartels selling all the drugs and Chinese fentanyl to America and killing all our people, how come you don't have a big problem with drug overdoses and drug deaths in Mexico? And she said, because of our advertising campaigns, we have very strong advertising campaigns against drugs. And he said, we're going to do that too. He said, but you got to make it strong. It's got to be scary. You've got to show the people dying. You've got to show their skin falling off and their teeth falling out. We're going to make America scared of drugs again. He didn't say that, but basically that's what he said. I was like, okay, cool, let's go. But that's the propaganda we need. Somebody said propaganda is only negative in a debate I was listening to recently. That person's an idiot. Propaganda is not only negative. You can use propaganda positively. Propaganda is not inherently a negative thing. It's just pushing an idea. You ever had someone watch you pee in a cup like they got to physically see it? Yeah. Well, I spent about 10 years of my life, I never went a month without somebody watching me pee in a cup. But yeah, I've had a lot of people watch me pee in cups. It is weird. It is gay. I was always like, can that lady do it? Let me chub it up a bit. It's cold in here. Let me jump around and warm up a bit and let that lady watch me pee in a cup. Okay, that's weird. Derail. Doctors, however, say that SSRIs are not addictive. Bullshit. And that even the most extreme side, how much money do you get paid by the SSRI companies to say that? And even the most extreme side effects that the FDA warns of, a risk of suicidal thoughts among children and teens, is only slightly elevated, 4% versus 2%. Oh, so wait, I'm depressed, and you're going to give me a medication that has a chance of raising my risk of suicidal thoughts. That makes a lot of sense. Enough with the anti-propaganda. Right now we're doing anti drugs for kids propaganda, and it's good. Now, in a position to turn his beliefs into policy, Kennedy appears to be thrusting SSRIs into the national spotlight, a move supported by some conservatives who've embraced the MAHA movement, Make America Healthy Again. I have known many people who take antidepressants. In almost every case, there are glaringly obvious things in their life. Hold on, we got to do this in RFK voice. I have known many people who take antidepressants. In almost every case, there are glaringly obvious things in their lives that would cause any normal person to be depressed. Right-wing podcast. Oh, that's Matt Walsh, not RFK, who said that. Hold on, let me do Matt Walsh. I have known many. I can't do a Matt Walsh, but I've known many people. I already read it. Matt Walsh said that. Instead of making lifestyle changes or dealing with underlying trauma, they are given drugs. The increasing attention on SSRIs has prompted mental health advocacy groups to speak up in support of the medications. Oh, yeah, I'm sure they're a bunch of winners. I'd love to see this line of protesters who are speaking up against. They're all on SSRIs. I'm sure they look like real winners. The drugs can be life-saving by mitigating thoughts of suicide and can also help people with severe depression or anxiety function on a daily basis and maintain social relationships. Yeah, but it's a crutch. It's a crutch, and they build up a tolerance to it, and then they need a stronger one or a different brand. And then when you don't check all the boxes to be a depressed person, they have to make a new depression drug. Some people are only seasonally depressed. They only get depressed at Christmas time. Some people have treatment-resistant depression, but it's okay. We have a treatment for that. That's a true story, by the way. There's treatment-resistant depression, and the way I found out about treatment-resistant depression was in a drug ad for the treatment for treatment-resistant depression. So he said the CV-19 made his. I never heard that. He had that before COVID was a thing. I think his brainworm made him that way. We are deeply concerned some of these directives could create significant barriers to effective treatment for those suffering from obsessive compulsive disorder and related conditions. The International OCD Foundation. So they use SSRIs to treat OCD. I did not know that. Senate Tina Smith, Democrat of Minnesota. Oh, great. Yeah, because Democrats from Minnesota are really the type of people that we should be listening to. Yeah, we can get tampons in all the boys' bathrooms, and we can bring in a bunch of Syrian refugees. Who challenged Kennedy during this confirmation hearing? We're going to watch that. So I'm not going to read her quote. We're just going to go watch a clip from this Senate hearing. Before we do that, oh, no, this is the same article. I got the same article on here twice.
It's all over the country.
Let's take a look at this.
And prosecutors.
Mr. Chairman, you told me.
So this is the Senate hearing I was just reading about. This is Tina Smith. This is 6 minutes long. I don't know if we're going to watch the whole thing. But let's take a look. Hold on. Where is it? Right here. Boom. 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 I got it.
I'm out of time, and the witness continues to filibuster even after I said I'm done.
Senator Smith.
Mr. Chair, thank you.
Here we go.
Mr.
This
Chair
lady.
and Ranking Member, and welcome, Mr. Kennedy.
This lady's been on SSRIs her whole life. You know, she's pissed. You'd think that if she was on something to stifle her or to increase, well, I guess it would increase her serotonin levels. So maybe that's why she's so angry.
So, Mr. Kennedy, I don't have a question for you on abortion. I think that my colleagues on both sides of the aisle.
Oh, so she's pissed about two things. She can't kill her babies, and she can't take her dang pills no more. Dang, she's not happy.
Covered this, but I want to say I can respect people who have different views than mine on this issue, but it's hard for me to respect people who won't give a straight answer to what they think on this issue.
God, she looks like every
Mr.
liberal
Chair,
old lady.
I just want to note that I understand that anti-choice advocates have said that in these hearings they were looking to hear Mr. Kennedy provide some reassurance that he is on their side, and I'm not hearing that. And I think most Americans are looking for some hint that the decisions that people make about abortion should be personal and private, and they should be free to make those decisions without government interference, and I'm not hearing that either. To make it worse,
I thought you said you weren't going to talk about abortion.
You have given tell me that the Trump administration is more than willing to restrict or even ban medication abortion without a single Act
No,
of
this is
Congress.
medical
And
abortion.
even in states where abortion
Do you think people who take antidepressants are dangerous? Okay, she's going to talk about abortion for a minute here, but then she's going to get to the next
is
thing.
legal. And what is clear to me is that you and President Trump are dangerous to women's access to mifepristone. So having said that, I want to move to a different topic. Mr. Kennedy, I appreciate Senator Cornyn's questions about mental and behavioral health, something that I care a lot about. I know that you and your family have had personal experience with mental health challenges, as have I. And I agree that the mental health crisis in this country is a crisis. So let me ask you, in an interview in 2023 and again in 2024, you blamed school shootings on antidepressants. You said, and this is a quote, "There is no time in American history or human history that kids were going to shoot schools."
Do we see a lot of studies on what percentage of the school shooters are on prescription medications from a young age? We don't see a lot of studies on that. But if you listen to a lot of conservative talking heads like myself, you might have noticed a trend that they're all on them.
And shooting their classmates. It really started happening coterminous with the introduction of these drugs, with Prozac and with other drugs. So do you believe, as you've said, that antidepressants cause school shootings? This should be a simple question.
I don't think anybody can answer that question, and I didn't answer that question. I said it
So
should
your
be
answer
studied.
is...
I said it should be studied along with other potential.
Yeah, I'd like to see an exact quote from him. Maybe he was being hyperbolic, but nobody thinks that the antidepressants directly cause it. It's just a commonality. It's a link among all of them, which shows pretty good evidence that it's not helping the situation.
Culprits like
So they may cause...
social media. But I don't know. I would never make, because there's no science on that.
Well,
Senator.
there is...
Because we're not looking into it.
Excuse me,
Because
there
you know
is,
that if we did the science
Mr.
on
Kennedy,
it,
Thank you for the promotion.
if you did the science on it, you might come out with some results that might hurt some big pharma's pockets a little bit.
The science shows that there is no link between school shootings and antidepressants. And in fact, most school shooters were not even
The
treated
science shows that?
with antidepressants. And of those that were, there was no evidence of association. You know,
I call bullshit.
I don't think you
My
can say
question
that,
is-
Senator, because of HIPAA rules, nobody knows.
well,
Yeah.
that is, Mr. Kennedy, do you think
Yeah,
that
I call
people who
bullshit
take
on that, you
antidepressants are dangerous?
I think, listen, I'm not going into HHS if I'm privileged to be confirmed with any.
So you can't say that people
to
who...
impose
By the way, this was January 29th. Oh, I'm way late on this. But he's already been confirmed.
any preconceived ideas that I may have. I just want to have good science.
So you're not saying that they aren't
I thought there was a
dangerous,
more
which means that they
recent
could be
video of
dangerous. Let
this.
me ask you this.
That's not true.
You've described Americans who take mental health medications as
I
addicts.
thought there was
who
a
need to be
hearing
sent
just
to
recently
wellness
that
farms
happened.
to recover. Is that what you believe?
No, of course, I didn't say that
Yes, you did.
anybody should be compelled to do anything.
No, but you said they should be sent.
I said they should be available to them.
You said
I didn't
that-
say they should be sent.
You said that folks
Kicking and
that take
screaming.
antidepressants are like addicts. That I can provide
No,
that.
it's all
Well, I
taking me
think
to
they
this
should
same
have
video.
The availability. Listen, I know people
3 weeks ago.
members of my family who've had a much worse time getting off of SSRIs than they did than people have getting off of heroin. It's the withdrawal period is, I mean, and it's written
actually have
on the label.
I have some
This is
experience
very
with
well
this
documented.
myself, Mr. Kennedy. This is
We
personal
know.
for me. When I was a young woman and I was struggling with depression,
Oh, yeah, we already know, lady. You don't have to tell us. We all know that you're on medication.
thankfully, I had the resources to help me get through it,
Really?
including
Because I'd say you're a nut job.
a new generation of SSRI uptake inhibitors, which help to clear my mind, get me back on track to being a mom and a wife and a productive, happy person. And I'm really grateful for that therapy. So I have some experience with this, and I think that everyone should have access to that care. And
This is like, she said, help me get on track with being a mother. There's like postpartum depression. Remember how I said that there's so many different types of depression? There's like 1,000 different types of depression. Postpartum depression. So after you give birth to your baby, you get depressed. I think that that's natural. I think that's God's way of making the woman want to get pregnant again, to make more babies. But I'm sure there's something to do with all the hormones changing in her body, going from holding the child to now caring for the child, and the child cries and it makes them sad and they get depressed, and they're all hormonal and all their hormones are going crazy. Their body's changing and producing milk and da 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 da. Their dang vag is closing up. So there's all sorts of hormonal imbalances in them. And then they feel depressed. And I think that's a natural thing. And instead of taking medication to stifle it, you need to go through it. You need to suffer through it. You have to suffer through it. And that suffering will make you stronger.
Her job as secretary is to
The
expand
fine print is
access
diabolical
to care,
facts.
not to spread lies and misinformation. And you know, the things that you say, Mr. Kennedy, they live on. They have impact. And you know, we're having this conversation at the same moment.
If they label it as a side effect, it's not on the farm company
anymore. Try to figure out
anymore.
how to save money any way they can, and so they want to cut Medicaid. Let's just think about this for a minute.
Yeah, the side effects list is insane. Explosive diarrhea, loss of a limb, suicidal thoughts, like hallucinations. Well,
Because you're going to be, should you be confirmed, you would be responsible for CMS, which provides mental and behavioral health care to millions of Americans. Close to 40% of folks on Medicaid have a behavioral health condition. And you would be part of this administration that would be looking to cut Medicaid. So, Mr. Kennedy, these statements that you've made linking antidepressants to school shootings, they reinforce the stigma that people who experience mental health every day face every single day. And I'm very concerned that this is another example of your record of
Psycho
sharing
heresy,
false and misleading
psychobabble.
information that actually really hurts people.
Senator, you're
Thank you, Mr.
mischaracterizing my statements.
I am only putting into the record what you have said, Mr. Kennedy.
You're not even asking him questions. You just wanted to talk. She even said, I'm not going to ask you a question. I'm just going to go on a diatribe and scold you because I'm mama. Mama's going to scold you, RFK, for 6 minutes, not ask you any questions. Isn't it your job to ask questions?
You're mischaracterizing my statements, and
It's a confirmation hearing. You're
I'm
supposed
happy
to ask
that you had a
questions.
good experience on SSRIs. Many Americans have very good experience on it. Others have
That
not.
would be an issue between them and their physicians, and not for
And
the
exactly.
future head of HHS
That's a
to
decision
be
they and their doctors
putting
can
out
make.
misinformation
Of
if they want to
about
kill the baby at 9
dangers
months.
of SSRIs and other antidepressant medication, spreading the stigma and the fear.
Just sounds as
that we're
smart as
actually
AOC.
trying to overcome.
AOC's probably
Do
drugged
you
up
think
too.
physicians, when they make that prescription, ought to have access to good science?
Of course they do, and
Right,
I
that's
don't
all
think
I
that.
believe too. Then you and I are in agreement, Senator.
And to your point that you made when you made these statements, it was not based on good science. I don't know what it was based on.
I was saying the science needed to be done. I was saying these are potential culprits. Were coterminous, and I named other things. I said video games. I said
Social media.
I said SSRIs. SSRIs have a black box warning of suicidal, homicidal behavior.
Mr. Chair, I will submit to the chair the information that I have about what Mr.
Yeah, shut up. Shut up, lady. And guess what? He got confirmed. Confirmed. So your little rant didn't work. They're not going to let me log in to continue reading. Seattle Times isn't going to let me. Anything the Times, they won't let you read it unless you pay. The headline was RFK Jr. targets meds that 1 in 3 Seattle area young women use. You know about Seattle, right? Seattle's a mess. Shocker, 1 in 3 women in Seattle are on. It's not the place where you want to move if you want to find a nice Christian woman, nice traditional Christian housewife. You don't want to find her in Seattle. She's not there, guys. Now, if you want a big one with armpit hair and blue hair who just don't care, you could go there. But you might be scared, you know. But at least you know if you get her pregnant, she'll kill the baby, you know. Oh, Lord. Boom! Confirmed. She hasn't. Okay. All right. Did any of Trump's appointees get denied? Only Matt Gaetz, because they had dirt on him. They had dirt on him. He had some skeletons in the closet. I'm not going to deny it. Some people were trying to deny it and say it was a total setup, that they pulled out all the stops to get, which they did. They did set him up, and they did pull out all the stops to make sure that he didn't get confirmed. But I also believe he did have some skeletons in his closet. He looks like a Batman villain, you know? He looks a little greasy, like he probably got some dang skeletons. And they knew about it. And he's like, you know what? Let's just keep this on the hush hush. I'll back out. That's what I think happened. And I'm probably right. Amazing. All right. RFK Jr. Okay, next. What else he working on? He's working on these Vaselines. RFK Jr. prepared this from Politico, YouTube. I'm reading from Politico. RFK Jr. prepares shakeup of vaccine advisors. The health secretary is planning to remove members of a panel that recommends vaccines if he sees conflicts of interest. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is preparing to remove members of the outside committees that advise the federal government on vaccine approvals and other key public health decisions, according to two people familiar with the planning. Oh, yeah, we're not going to tell you our sources, as usual. As usual, they want to stay anonymous. Kennedy plans to replace members who he perceives to have conflicts of interest as part of a widespread effort to minimize what he's criticizing as undue industry influence over the nation's health agencies, said one of the people who were granted anonymity to speak freely. Granted anonymity to speak freely. That don't even make sense. Kennedy has long argued that drug makers have too much sway over the approval of their products. So you're not allowed to speak freely publicly, but you can do it anonymously. Sounds like some BS to me. Villain archetype for sure. Matt Gaetz, yeah, definitely. The effort is likely to target the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, which plays a key role in setting vaccine policy. Kennedy and his top aides are also scrutinizing a host of other outside panels, including those that advise the Food and Drug Administration. Kennedy has only just begun evaluating the advisory's committees. One of the people cautioned, and has not decided who or how many people will be replaced or set a firm deadline for the removals. But should he follow through, the moves would likely generate upheaval within the Department of Health and Human Services and feed concerns across broader public health establishment that Kennedy could undermine America's trust in vaccines. Spoiler alert, more than half of the country already doesn't trust them. Politico. Just so you know, that's why we elected Trump. That's why we support Make America Healthy Again, because more than half of the country already doesn't trust putting 20 shots in the kid's arm before he's 2 years old. Yeah, it's already a thing. You're not undermining the trust. We already don't trust it. We're seeing problems with it. Prior to his confirmation as HHS Secretary, Kennedy sowed doubt about the safety of vaccines as one of the nation's most prominent anti-vaccine activists. He has since denied that he is against vaccines, and during his confirmation hearings, promised not to undermine the nation's faith in immunizations. He said he just wants good science on it. He wants research done into it. He said he's not totally against vaccines broadly. He's against harmful vaccines. And in order to find which ones are the harmful ones, we need to study these things. We need long-term studies looking into these things. Because a lot of this stuff just gets pushed out and nobody even knows what it is. Remember I showed you the thing of all the different vaccines that kids get before they're 3 years old? A lot of these things, nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows what these things are for. And then you ask the doctor, and the doctors don't even know what it's for. It's just, we're just supposed to do it. Like, there's not a lot of information on this stuff. Well, you can get the information. Some of them have had, what's the word for long-term trials? There's a smarter word than saying long-term trials. But some of them do have the long-term studies, but the average American doesn't know this stuff, and you have to do some digging And, you're supposed to be able to trust your doctor. You're supposed to be able to trust your doctor that they have your best interest and that they will do no harm. But instead, the doctor just says, I'm going to give you this, this, and this. And you're like, can I get some information on this? Yeah, go check the CDC website and the Human Health and Services, the HHS website, and you can read all about it. And then you got to go read documents and documents and documents for all these for 30 different medications that they're going to give your child. No. Cut that out. We need some natural pure blood Americans. I never got the Vaseline. Good. Longitudinal. Thank you, Jantix. That's the word I was looking for. That's a smarter word. Longitudinal studies. Yes, that's what I meant. That's the smart person word. I'm going to start using that. I'm probably going to forget it pretty quickly because I did too many drugs. My brain doesn't work the way it used to. Longitudinal study, longitudinal study, longitudinal study. So let's see. From NPR, first CDC vaccine meeting under Trump administration is postponed. So they were set to have this meeting, I think, on the 21st. So this week. But it got postponed. So it hasn't happened yet. The Trump administration is delaying an upcoming public meeting of an independent panel of experts who make recommendations to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on vaccines. The meeting was slated to be the first gathering of the Advisory Committee of Immunization Practices under Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose department includes the CDC. Doctors and public health leaders are closely watching the fate of the vaccine committee, which consists of up to 19 voting members under Secretary Kennedy, because it's instrumental to CDC's vaccine policy making. Now, is this in? Hold on, I have a article somewhere here because they're just now coming out with They're just coming out with studies. Shocker. There's negative side effects to the C19 Vaseline. Shocker. From Yale, news.yale.edu, immune markers of post-vaccination syndrome indicate future research director. PVS, post-vaccination syndrome. COVID-19s have been instrumental in reducing the impact of the pandemic, preventing severe illness and death, and they appear to protect against long COVID. Bullshit. Not a real thing. However, some individuals have reported chronic symptoms that develop soon after receiving a COVID-19 vaccine. This little understood persistent condition, referred to as post-vaccination syndrome, remains unrecognizable by medical authorities. Is it? Is it? Yeah, because it's normal for healthy young soccer players to drop dead on the field. Yeah, that's totally normal. And little is known about its biological underpinnings. In a new study, Yale researchers, now wait till you hear one of the side effects. This is wild. In a new study, Yale researchers, excuse me. I need to hit my mute button when I cough. I have a cough button now. Let's do that. Gathering of the Druggalos. I had to find it, but there was an article asking why unvaxxed didn't warn the vaxxed. We have a meme, kind of something like that. But wait till you hear one of these side effects. It's wild. When I was in an Uber and I heard this on the radio and I put it in my phone, I was like, you need to talk about this on Monday, because I heard it and I started laughing. And I think the Uber driver was based because he looked at me and he kind of smiled. Anyway, in a new study, Yale researchers have taken initial steps to characterize this condition, uncovering potential immunological patterns that differentiate those with PVS from others. The findings are early and require further confirmation, but may eventually guide strategies to help affected individuals. It's interesting how we'll do longitudinal studies on the effects of a Vaseline, but we didn't do any longitudinal studies on the vaccine. Isn't that seems kind of ass backwards, if you ask me? Let's just give it to them, and then we'll study the effects for a long time afterwards. This work is still in its early stages, and we need to validate these findings, said Akiko Iwasaki, Sterling Professor of Immunobiology at Yale School of Medicine and co-senior author of the study published February 19th as a preprint on MedRx IV. But this is giving us some hope that there may be something that we can use for diagnosis and treatment of PVS down the road. Now, here's the important part. Some of the most common chronic symptoms of PVS include the first one, and I don't know if this is like ingredients in food where you list the most prevalent one at the top, but the first most prevalent symptom of PVS is exercise intolerance. Exercise intolerance. So wait. So a lot of the people who got the Vaseline can't tolerate exercise now? That's wild. Exercise intolerance is the number one most prevalent side effects. Wow. Excessive fatigue, brain fog, insomnia, and dizziness. They develop shortly after vaccination within a day or two and can become more severe in the days that follow and persist over time. More studies are needed to understand the prevalence of PVS. So that's really just what I wanted to get. Now, you know, COVID was having the most drastic effects on the elderly and people with comorbidities, specifically overweight people. You know, we have a diabetes epidemic in America. And now I'm guessing a lot of the people who took the Vaseline might be overweight, and now they have an exercise intolerance. Sorry, bro, I can't lift today. I got the Vaselinitis. Man, I really want to hit the gym, but I got the vax. I got the jab, guys. I can't hit the gym today. I guess they say it's also a side effect of diabetes. Eating too many Little Debbie cakes causes exercise intolerance. Depression causes exercise intolerance. SSRIs cause exercise intolerance. The Vaseline causes exercise intolerance. Seems like America has a big problem with exercise intolerance. This is a maybe we can get a medication for that. We can take Ozempic. Take some Ozempic, and then, even though you have Ozempic side effects include exercise intolerance, but they will help you lose weight. You can lose weight and not exercise, because we know you suffer from exercise intolerance. That's crazy to me. That's wild. So what else on RFK? Wrecking Ball from science.org. Wrecking Ball, RFK Jr. moves to fire thousands of health agency employees. Oh, yeah. We're gutting. Dude, Trump is coming through. This is what we wanted. We wanted all this overspending, all this fluff in the government, all these useless workers who are getting paid to do nothing. Gut it. Small government, smaller government. It's crazy to me that the anarcho-commies don't like this. If they even knew what the hell they were talking about, these people at these protests, they would support it. Because they're anti-big government. They don't like the government. They're anarchists. They don't like the government. Shouldn't you be happy that we're gutting the government? President Donald Trump's administration today moved to fire 5,200 workers at the Department of Health and Human Services. Let's go. Using supervisors across the vast agency to warn probationary employees that they would soon receive termination notices. It also fired the director and much of the staff of the Advanced Research Products Agency for Health, a $1.5 billion agency created 3 years ago to fund high-risk, high-payoff research. Yeah, what are they getting done? They're figuring out that vaccines cause exercise intolerance. Good job, guys. Thanks. We could have just looked at them to figure out that they had exercise intolerance. The move came on the first full day in office of HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who had promised to eliminate hundreds of jobs at federal agencies on day one. Yep. So they're gutting the HHS. Top FDA food safety officials' resignation letter warns firings will backfire on RFK Jr., says CBS News. Lefty CBS News is going to say, this is not good. Of course they are. Top official in charge of food and safety and nutrition at the Food and Drug Administration resigned this week, protesting the dozens of science. So we don't got to fire him. Thanks, bud. Make the job easier for us. Good job. I'm protesting the firing, so I'm going to resign. Awesome. We were going to fire you anyway, so he resigned this week, protesting the dozens of scientists and other health officials now being let go across the agency's food program. In his resignation letter, James Jones warned that Jones, are you related possibly to John Jones? Are you feeding us the Kool-Aid? Warned that the indiscriminate cuts would add one more roadblock to the Make America Healthy Again agenda outlined by the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They included staff with highly technical expertise in nutrition, infant formula. Oh, they have expertise in infant formula. Don't get me started on the formula babies. Food safety response, and even 10 chemical safety staff hired to review potentially unsafe ingredients in our food supply, Jones wrote in his letter, which was dated February 17th. Jones said that at least 89 of his recently hired staff had been cut across the agency's human foods program. News of the resignation was previously reported by the food industry publication Food Fix. Food Fix. Got to get your food fix. Food Fix. I bet they promote exercise intolerance over there at Food Fix. Dozens of other staff have been cut across other parts of the FDA. Multiple agencies, included employees, told CBS News because of the sweeping cost-cutting moves by the Trump administration's Department of Government Efficiency task force. Firings at the FDA affected a range of teams, including those overseeing tobacco products to medical devices, officials said. Good. We got one more thing here. Hold on, I have a. Oh, also we're going to talk about this Doge check for a little bit. Pipe dream or reality, we'll see. One more thing from RFK though. Most people getting dumber is a logical entailment of weak vascularity, no? I think that probably has more to do with technology, with access to information. So they've done studies that like ever since spell checking became a thing, people can't spell as good, which makes sense. Ever since you have access to instant gratification on all of your informational needs, instead of having a conversation with somebody to figure things out and talking about things with each other, and then saying, well, let's go to the library and get a book, or let's go to the encyclopedia shelf and let's read about this. It's just Google, answer, Google, answer, Google, answer. And I think that's more. But it could also have to do with Vaselines. I don't know. But yeah, people are getting dumber. Yeah, we'll talk about the checks in a second. Last thing from RFK. This is from Independent. RFK Jr. targets transgender protections, calling sex unchangeable in new guidance. Sex is defined under the new guidance as an immutable biological classification as either male or female. Male or female. Sorry about it. You can't be a dragonkin or a pixie twin, fairy gender, none of that. Nah, I'm imby. You can't be an imby. To North Carolina and LA. I mean, but who are you going to give it to? Don't give it to FEMA. You got to give it to, if you're going to donate to those causes, you got to find like local people who are doing like outreach work. You can't give it to any big agencies or anything like that, because they're just, the majority of it's going to go to garbage spending. In his first few days as Health and Human Services Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. issued new health guidance that defines sex as unchangeable in the Trump administration's latest attack against transgender Americans. The department released guidance and a new webpage called Protecting Women and Children to support Donald Trump's executive orders recognizing only two sexes and prohibiting federal funds from going towards gender-affirming care for minors. Let's freaking go. Let's freaking go. I don't care if these people are crying about it. Dude, praise God. A person's sex is unchangeable and determined by objective biology. The webpage on the HHS Office of Women's Health site states, adding that surgical interventions and hormones don't change a person's sex because such actions do not change the type of gamete that the person's reproductive system has the biological function to produce. Duh. It's crazy that we have to address this stuff on a government level. The new guidance defines sex as a person's immutable biological classification as either male or female. Female is defined as person of the sex characterized by a reproductive system with the biological function of producing eggs. While male, boys have penises, girls have vaginas. While male is defined as a person of the sex characterized by a reproductive system with the biological function of producing sperm. Wow. This is crazy. We're in second grade. Well, not second grade. I don't know if we need to be teaching kids about that. In kindergarten cop, the kid knew. It's pretty simple. If a man spends his time down in a coal mine, he can do whatever he wants with his money. I wonder how far off we are from mass book burning. I'm buying up books because I'm scared. Okay, so sorry, Transformers. Administration is bringing back common sense and restoring biological truth to the federal government, Kennedy said in a statement. The prior administration's policy of trying to engineer gender ideology into every aspect of public life is over. Based. Praise God, dude. These guys out here doing God's work. Even if they're not totally about that life, about that Christian life, they're doing God's work. All right, let's switch over to Doge and Elon. So the idea has been floated. 20%, if they reach their goal, and I think their goal is to cut $2 trillion in spending over the next year, from all of these, from gutting all these agencies, shutting down all these programs, stopping the money laundering, and stopping, gender plays in Guatemala and Ireland and Syria, shutting all that stuff down. The goal is to save $2 million. 80% of that money is going to go towards paying down our debt, our national debt, which is a fake number. It's not a real number. 36 trillion is not real money. Who do we owe? We owe the country of America owes the country of China. Like, what does that even mean? Take China's money and don't pay them back. Screw China. China do not like Donald Trump. Donald Trump, or China is asshole. So then 20% of that money, Doge is floating the idea of giving it back to the American taxpayer. Now, lefties who loved the idea of getting stimulus checks, regardless of whether it affected inflation and the budget or the deficit, they didn't care. They wanted the stimmies. Now all of a sudden, this is not a stimulus check. This is not free money because the sniffles are out there and we don't want you to go to work. And the whole country is collapsing because nobody's working. So we're just going to send everybody free money. This is not the same thing. This is money that we taxpayers, hardworking taxpayers, paid our money to go to the government to protect us. The only job of the government is to protect our persons and our property. And make life better for us. Fix the roads, do the real infrastructure, not a pot shop on every corner. The roads, the bridges, the travel. Pete Buttigieg can't get a freaking train or a plane to land if it saved his life. We want to fix the roads, fix the transportation, protect our border from cartels coming in, raping young college girls. And we don't want to pay for abortions. We don't want to pay to kill babies. We don't want to pay for Ukraine. We don't want to pay for Israel. We don't want to pay to protect Taiwan. We don't want to pay to defend every country in the world so that they could have these homogenous nations where they talk about that's a socialist nation over in Scandinavia. Yeah, the population is the size of like Rhode Island, and they're all homogenous. They're all like white not Christians, but they're all like basically same culture. We want to pay to turn London into Londistan. That's what our taxpayer money is going to. We want to send our tax money to gender plays in Syria. No, that's not what we want. We've paid all this money out, and it's gone to nothing that positively affects us. So I think if they get this money back, we should get a chunk of that money back. You should send me a check. I pay taxes. Where's my tax dollars going to? You're already taxing me too much as it is. You're already taking my money for Social Security that I don't even care. I don't care about Social Security. I'd rather not have that money taken out of my check, and I can save it. And then I have money for an emergency. What percentage? It's something like 60% of Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency. Now I'm past, I'm not one of those anymore, but I was not too long ago. I'd like to not take all that Social Security money and put that aside for emergencies, and then be able to save the money that I'm saving now so I could buy a computer. Let me save a chunk for emergencies. That money you take out for Social Security, let me save that for an emergency. And then let me save the other chunk that I already save currently for when I want to get a big purchase. Maybe I want to get a new vehicle. Maybe I want to get a computer. Maybe I want to invest into a business or something like that. I should have enough money that I can have two savings accounts. One for emergencies, one for the next big investment I want to make. But no, the government's going to take a chunk out for me for Social Security. So when I get old, I can have them give me some money back. And maybe I'm never going to see that money. Maybe I'm going to die tomorrow and I'm never going to see that money. And who's going to get that money? The government. They're going to keep it. So yes, I want my $5,000 check, Elon. Trump says Doge could return 20% of its savings directly to taxpayers. That could reignite inflation. That's what CNN's focused on. It's going to reignite inflation. But then when you say the same thing about the stimmy checks, you say, isn't this going to raise inflation? They say, well, no, it's going to stimulate the economy. It's going to get people spending money. No, people blew that money. $5K. I'll probably blow a K of it. I'll probably put a K into Dogecoin. I'll probably put a K into NASDAQ. And I'll probably put 2K into savings. And I'll probably blow about a K, Life is literally a video game IRL. Yeah. So, Forbes, what's Forbes saying about this? Here's everything we know about Doge dividend checks and how they could contribute to inflation. And this is what every headline is saying. President Donald Trump says he's contemplating the idea of direct payments to Americans floated by Elon Musk, the planet's wealthiest man and arguably Trump's most influential advisor, via savings from Musk's sweeping and controversial cost-cutting initiatives, a payout program with a public roadmap which could lead to further inflation, and is potentially far less in lump sum payments than advertised. It's all negative. All the media coverage is negative. A new concept where we give 20% of Doge savings to American citizens is under consideration, Trump said Wednesday. A new concept where we give 20% of Doge savings to American citizens. is under consideration, Trump said Wednesday at a conference in Miami, adding another 20% would go towards the $36.2 trillion national debt. He didn't specify where the remaining 60% would go. Okay, so that's different than what I heard from the interview that I watched. I think I have a clip of it here. The guy said 80% was going to pay off the debt. But Forbes is saying 20% to the debt, 20% to Americans, and that we don't know where the other 60% is going. Trump's comments came a day after Musk, who leads probably to the satellite war, the Star Wars, probably going to build some rockets and some satellites because we got space war coming up. Get ready, guys. Trump's comments came a day after Musk, who leads the Department of Government Efficiency, said he'd check with Trump to see if the idea of Doge dividend, pitched by James Fishback, the CEO of anti-woke boutique investment firm from Arizona, and a reported close associate of Vivek Ramaswamy, briefly the co-chief of Doge. Fishback's 4-page formal proposal calls for a tax refund check sent to all American taxpayer households after Doge's announced end date of July 2026. The idea of Doge payouts took off. So this ain't going to be for a while. Well, it's 2025, July 2026. All right. So a lot of people are saying this is a pipe dream. There's not a chance that this is going to happen. I've also heard some people say it could potentially be less, more like something like the stimmy, like a $1,200 check, maybe a $600 check.
Doge dividend checks.
And then a lot of people are just saying this is total fairy tale stuff. We're not getting checks from them. They've seemed to be keeping their word on a lot of stuff. Remember we were talking about the overtime. Were they going to stop taxing overtime? And I thought that he had that Trump had already passed that and like made that a thing or an executive order or something. That's not the case. I spoke too soon. He has not done that yet. So people are saying, "Oh, he's not keeping his promises. He said he was gonna lower the price of food, and he said he was gonna cut the tax on tips and overtime." He just mentioned it in a conference the other day. He said, "I'm working on the overtime thing. I know a lot of people are talking about the overtime thing." He said, "I'm working on the overtime thing to not tax overtime." He said, "I think that's going to drive a lot of people." What up, Lord Spike? It's going to drive a lot of people to want to work more, to go to work more. And he's 100% right. I avoid overtime because my overtime, I get paid less than my regular time because of how much it gets taxed. It's not worth it. I'd rather just go home. But if you're not taxing my overtime, bro, I'm working 30 hours a day. I'm working 30 hours a day if you stop taxing my overtime. Let's freaking go. But he said he's working on the overtime thing. But and then the food, reducing the prices of stuff, I always thought that was kind of a campaign promise he couldn't keep. But listen, it's a politician on the campaign trail. Usually 90% of what they tell you they're going to do while they're on the campaign trail is bullshit. They don't come through with it. It doesn't happen. It's all lies. So Trump, on the other hand, is doing 90% of what he said he would do. People were complaining that that they were only deporting 500. I heard on a stream I was listening to, they're like, he's not doing enough. He's only deporting 500 people a day. I think currently they're up to like 1,200 people or 1,800 people a day. And the goal, or I think they're at 1,200 people a day, and the goal is 1,800 people a day. So now, if we were going to deport all of them, it would, in his term, it would have to be like 18,000 a day. That's not going to happen. And I don't even think they're trying to deport everybody who's here illegally. I think they're focusing on the criminals. Some people are estimating that he'll get about 3 million of them out. Which is a good chunk. It's not all of them. But my point is, he's coming through on like 90% of his promises. If we get the overtime thing, you know, I'll let it slide if he can't reduce food. I never thought he would be able to reduce the food prices. A negative inflation where prices start dropping down is not realistic. Instead, you want it to plateau and you want to increase wages and you want to not federally, not by a forced raising the minimum wage, but just through promoting the economy, boosting the economy. People's wages will gradually rise as they have been for the past long time. You get inflation to plateau, but you get wages to go up. Now it seems like the food is cheaper. Your dollar goes longer. And that's what I would like to see. I'm not expecting him to get the stuff to go down. And when I look at the prices of things, I don't see everything still keep going up. The egg prices are up right now, and there's reasons for that. I think there are some ops out here killing all our chickens with some fake bird flu crap. But yeah, Trump's coming through on most of his promises. So I'd like to see this Doge check happen. It might not. I'm not gonna like start planning out my budget based on it. Don't get your hopes up, but hope for the worst, expect the best. Or wait, don't do that. hope for the best, expect the worst. And you'll be all right. It would just be a nice little icing on the cake. Gas went up 30 cents here? Really? Well, that's not good. I think they've been pretty consistent around me. Oh, no, that could be a local thing. I don't know. I also think there's going to be a lot of ops that are going to be raising the price on stuff just to make Trump look bad. But I'm not an economist. How come chickens' meats didn't go way up then? I don't know, Dean. Let's go. Tariffs are on the way. Let's do those tariffs. I love tariffs. Tariff is my favorite word. It's almost as good of a word as love. Tariff the shit out of those countries. Okay. Let's watch this clip real quick. I'm going way too long on this main news stuff. We still have to.
20% back to taxpayers.
Wow, we're not going to have time to do everything today.
60% is left. Who gets that?
When you achieve savings, you can either return it to taxpayers, you can return it to our debtors, or it can be cycled into next year's budget, and then it just lowers the overall baseline for next year. This is all going to be worked on through the reconciliation process with Congress that's going underway right now.
The White House breaking down how government savings will be used. Now, Doge is proposing that a percentage should go straight to Americans' pockets. And James Fishback is a Doge advisor. He came up with this idea. That escalated quickly, James. So here was Elon Musk yesterday talking to Hannity about this. Watch.
The overall goal is to try to get $1 trillion out of the deficit. And if the deficit is not brought under control, America will go bankrupt. The massive waste, fraud, and abuse that has been going on, which is leading to a $2 trillion a year deficit. That's what the president was handed on Jan 20th, a $2 trillion deficit. It's insane.
James, sorry, that was on Tuesday, not last night. But the sentiment continues. And a question based on...
Okay, we get the point. We're not going to watch all of this. I'm not real big on covering the Israel-Palestine stuff. I just wanted to talk about this hostage situation. So earlier in the week, Hamas released the bodies of 4 Israeli hospitals, including a mother and young sons. But one of the bodies, there was a bit of a problem. One of the bodies wasn't identified as the right person, and so Israel was not happy. Hamas has, this is from NPR, Hamas has handed over what it said are the bodies of 4 Israeli hospitals, including the mother and her 2 young sons, who have become a symbol in Israel of the plight of hostages held in Gaza. The bodies will undergo forensic testing in Israel to confirm their identity. The bodies are believed to be Shiri Bibas, 33, her son Ariel and Kfir, ages 4 and 9 months at the time of their capture, and Oded Lifshitz, 84. All were taken hostage on October 7th in a Hamas-led attack on Israel from kibbutz. Shiri's husband Yarden was also taken hostage with the family. He was released alive earlier this month. The Bibas family and their 2 small redheaded children have become a symbol of the hostage struggle in Israel throughout the war, with posters of their face plastered along city streets and commemorations held on the children's birthdays. Israel outlets are not broadcasting the Hamas handover ceremony. That's because every time they hand them over, they make a show out of it, and they kind of humiliate them as they're letting them go. Their remains were handed to the International Committee of the Red Cross at a staged ceremony near a cemetery in the southern Gaza city known as Khan Yunis. Large crowds gathered as masked Hamas gunmen presided over the ceremony at a stage with 4 coffins draped in black, flanked by large posters with their messages in Hebrew and English. One poster depicted Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu as a fanged vampire. See, they make a joke out of it as they're handing over hostages. But now I wonder if everybody's corrected the narrative, because I think they were saying earlier in the week. Oh, there is video of it. Hold on one second. Yeah, so see, ABC News, IDF says one of the 4 bodies returned does not belong to a hostage. Shiri Bibas and 2 children were confirmed, but not the mother. Her 2 children were confirmed, but not the mother. So they said her body, the body that they said was hers, was not actually hers. And I think, if I understand correctly, we have a story from today or yesterday. Well, I don't want to say this before we get to it. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I think that there's a happy ending to this story.
Officials say Hamas handed over 4 black coffins during a ceremony in the southern Gaza city of Khan Yunis.
They had them kiss their capture when released. Yeah, see, they do.
The Bibas family, but Israeli officials say they'll conduct forensic analysis to confirm their identities.
Yeah, while they're releasing them, they're doing humiliation rituals. They make them kiss the captives and stuff like that. And then people like Hassan on Twitch are like, look, they're not even doing that bad. Look, they're kissing him. Look, they like the guy. Hassan's he's a terrorist op.
ABC's Lama Hassan joins me live for more on that. Lama, Hamas says in a statement that...
Don't talk about any channels. Oh, I just talked about Hassan.
It did quote everything in its power to keep the hostages alive.
Moneyologist. Yeah, I'm not a moneyologist.
Israeli airstrikes on Gaza. Israel is holding Hamas responsible for their deaths. So how are people in Israel reacting to this? And what's the latest on the...
Okay, I just wanted you to see the little short clip of that. But one of the 4 bodies handed over from Gaza to Israel on Thursday does not include a hostage. The Israeli Defense Forces said, calling it a very serious violation. Thursday marked the latest return of deceased hostages as part of the group ceasefire deal with Israel. Israel and Hamas had confirmed the names of 4 bodies returned to Israel Thursday as Oded Lifshitz, a journalist and peace activist, and Shiri Bibas and her 2 children. After Israeli officials conducted forensic analysis to confirm the identities of the bodies, the IDF said the bodies of Lifshitz and Shiri Bibas' 2 children were identified, but the 4th body was not Shiri Bibas, nor was it a match for another hostage, the IDF said. So this pissed them off. This is earlier in the week. So they released the bodies here. They do the forensic analysis. IDF says one of these is not Shiri Bibas. Israel's pissed. Ceasefire may end. It's getting bad. From New York Post, U.S. official warns Hamas will face total annihilation if it doesn't release all hostages after Shiri Bibas' body wasn't returned. So, starts heating up earlier in the week. I don't want to watch the ad, but there's a picture of them wearing all black, carrying the... Bro. And look, they have their pictures in the back, and it's like a dark black, and it's like red with blood. And then they have a picture here of all these coffins with Israel flags over them. And they have Netanyahu as a vampire looming over the pictures of these people who died. These people are trash, dude. We need a McDonald's. We need a giant Gazan McDonald's. I think that's what we need right now. A Trump Donald's in Gaza. That's what I think. So, Hamas shocking hostage video, reason behind Netanyahu's suspended prisoner release, uproar in Israel. So this is another hostage release that they did after the threats came. I'm going to mute it because of the music. Palestinian group's newest clip causes uproar in Israel. Hostages made to watch other captives released from secret car. So these hostages are being held still, and they're recording them watching the others get released. Still in Hamas captivity. These guys are still in captivity. Palestinian armed group Hamas on February 22 released shocking clip of 2 Israeli hostages. So while other hostages are being released, these guys are being held and made to watch. Bro, can we get a big Palestine-sized McDonald's over there? That's what I'm thinking. But I think there's a happy, well, not a happy ending because it's a body. Hamas releases more hostages in exchange for more than 600 Palestinian prisoners as part of a ceasefire deal. Tal Shamam, 40, and Avera Mengitsu, 39, were the first to be released Saturday, followed by Omer Winkert, 23, and Omer Shem Tov, 22, and Elia Cohen, 27. So this is that ceremony. They released more hostages, but then they release a video of them holding other hostages, making them watch the other hostages get released. It's crazy. But, I mean, it's not a super happy ending because, you know, it's her body. But the body released by Hamas is Israeli hostage, Shiri Biba's family said. Israeli officials were furious after Hamas returned what it said was a mother's body on Thursday, but then turned out not to be her from NBC News. Now they're saying it is her. Now, remember, and this is why I don't cover this stuff a whole lot. There's a lot of propaganda. Same thing with Ukraine and Russia. I don't cover it a lot because I don't know what we can believe about anything that we see on the mainstream media. I don't believe anything that's coming out of Israel. I don't believe anything that's coming out of Palestine. I don't believe anything that's coming out of Russia. I don't believe anything that's coming out of Ukraine. And I don't believe anything that's coming out of the American media. So take all of this with a grain of salt. I'm just covering mainstream media coverage of this. I don't know what's real and what's fake. Human remains returned by Hamas to Israel on Friday are those of hostage Shiri Biba. See, so even this, the story will come out. They'll say her body's been released. Yay. Next day, it's not her body. A week later, it is her body. Like, there's no way. Chair, I think we should deal with our issues here in the U.S. Israel should be way down on our list of priorities, not at the top. Well, we wouldn't have to fund Israel so much if we just, built a McDonald's in Palestine. You know what I'm saying? Just a McDonald's. We're just going to build a McDonald's. It's going to be a big McDonald's, but then we don't have to worry about protecting Israel so much. We just kind of, re-desertify a lot of that area. Bring it back to the desert. Last night, Shiri was returned home, the Bibas family said in a statement Saturday local time through the Hostage and Missing Families Forum headquarters, a group of that represents the families of those in Hamas captivity. Following the identification process, at the Institute of Forensic Medicine. We received this morning the news we had dreaded. Our Shiri was murdered in captivity and now returned home to her son's husband, sister, and all family. So they did end up getting her body because Israel is saying we're about to level all of you, total annihilation if you don't release more hostages. So it's a crazy situation over there. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on that because I don't even know what's real and what's fake. So let me drop a channel you would like. Sure. Trump knows. Why am I reading Freddie's comments? No reason to read his comments. All right. So that's it for the main story news, which means we're going to have to go fast through these guys. We're going to have to go fast through these things, you know what I mean? All right. You know what time it is, guys. It's time for the memes.
No, that doesn't work either.
Elon Musk said, bruh, if I wanted to rummage through random personal shit, I could have done that at PayPal. Hello. Having tens of million people marked in Social Security as alive when they are definitely dead is a huge problem, obviously. Yeah. You think they don't have all your... People are freaking out. They're getting our data. They have access to our data? Oh, bro, you're on TikTok. You're on TikTok. You're on Facebook. You're on X. You got PayPal. You got Cashapp. You got a cell phone that tracks you everywhere you go. They've had all your data for 20 years. Everything, all your information. Everybody already got all your information, bruh. You had a social security number before you knew what your name was. You're worried about your data? I hate the data argument. They're taking our data. Bro, they got your data. Everybody got all the data. Okay? He's having information to our taxes and our finances. The whole internet already has information, access to your financial data. Come on, man. Next. There's absolutely no reason for a child this age to have a cell phone. There's no reason a child this age should have a cell phone, guys. I mean, what's wrong with the world today? Why is this baby on a cell phone? Look at that dang baby. There's no reason for a child this age to have a cell phone. You need to put that thing down. Hold on, let me make this a little smaller. Look at that dang baby.
It's a man, baby.
Guys, we got a bunch of people here. Hit the like button. I think we got more likes than we do people, so that's good. We're doing a grifter break in the middle of the memes. If you want to support the channel, hit up the Cash App, $ Dreadedconservative. Don't send memberships anymore. Something's wrong with the memberships. Super chats are appreciated. Memberships, like all the memberships that I got on Friday and Saturday, didn't go through. So I think I was gifted like 20 memberships between Friday and Saturday, and I think like 5 of them went through. So just so you know, the memberships, I don't know if I'm at my limit of everybody who's ever come into the chat already has a membership now, or everybody who has them turned on has them, who's subscribed to my channel. I don't know how all that works, but none of the gifted memberships are going through anymore. So Super Chats and Cash App is the way to support the channel monetarily. But otherwise, just hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed. That's all I require. If you're worth anything in the world, is to hit the like button and subscribe. All the extra stuff is icing on the cake, and I I do so appreciate it, massa. Yes, I do. I surely do appreciate it. I'm a dancing monkey here for your entertainment. I do so appreciate a tip, but I require a like and a subscribe. Next. Ludicrous. Look at Goku to Chris. That's SS4 Goku to Chris. Look at Goku's forearms on SS4. And spoiler alert, Chibi Goku went SS4 in Daima last week, and this week, adult Goku went SS4, and he's got bigger front arms than in GT. It's Goku to Chris. Next. Y'all got any more of them DEI jobs? Look at Corinne Jean-Pierre. Oh, is that her name? Yeah. Corinne Jean-Pierre. Y'all got any more of them DEI jobs? I suck it for some DEI jobs. Dang.
You ain't got the answers, man. I've been doing this more than you. You ain't been doing the education.
Bro. Next. John Cena. Guys, this is John Cena. Get your new John Cena action figure. You can't unsee him. It is John Cena. Warrior Princess.
Beta.
Next. How to build a beep. ChatGPT. I don't know. I can't tell you how to build one of those. How to accidentally build a beep. ChatGPT. Well, here's how you could accidentally build one of those things. Next. Boom. From the ADL, it's okay to be white is now considered a hate symbol. Hate on display. It's okay to be white. So I'm going to get a sign that says it's okay to be white. That is designated as a hate symbol by the ADL, the Anti-Defense League, something Defense League, Anti-Defamation League. I forget what it stands for, but it's owned by the Bagels. It's a bagel company. And they say that if you say it's okay to be white, that is a hate symbol. That is racist. That's racist, guys. Don't say it.
No, that doesn't work either.
What the? Yeah, the boys were dumping memberships this weekend. I know, and none of them. I only think like 5 of them went through. I was kind of sad, but it's all right. Next. We still hit, even without the memberships, I think I still hit my goals most of the weekend. Back over the border you go. This kid about to get chucked. That baby getting chucked. Dang, look at that soldier.
It's a man, baby.
Back over the border you go. Launches him. Next. I asked for Hillary to be my Valentine. She left me hanging. Epstein. That's Epstein. He murdered a guy. Or Hillary murdered a guy, and his name was Epstein. I asked Hillary to be my Valentine. She left me hanging. Next. It was at this point that Kevin's dad took back every negative thing he ever said about his son wanting to quit playing hockey and focus on figure skating. Good morning, ladies. What that smell like? What that smell is? Fortunately, I got refunded. Yeah, you guys all probably got refunded for the gifted membership. So you know what you should do? Send it back to me in the form of a super chat or a Cash App. Next. Don't be an Indian giver. That's my money, and I need it now. I'm just joking. You guys can do what you want with it. Eigen Robot. Just got the call. Fired. I was the wildlife DEI coordinator at the EPA. My job was to turn the frogs gay. They're turning the freaking frogs gay. Fired. You're fired. We don't need a DEI coordinator at the Environmental Protection Agency turning all the frogs gay. Alex Jones told me they're turning the freaking frogs gay, and they're eating the cats, and they're eating the dogs. Next. The Maury Show. I'm sitting this one out. Bonnie Blue, known for sleeping with 1,057 men in under 24 hours, is reportedly pregnant. Maury says, I'm sitting this one out. You are not the father. You are the father. Yeah. Yeah, Maury, that's going to be a dang challenge. Look at it. Look at how nasty she looks. She looks nasty. Just like, okay, here she looks pretty here. She looks okay with some filters and some photoshopping and some editing. Right here, she just got ran through by 1,000, sucking the life force out of her. I think getting ran through by 1,000 guys is the opposite of like that word that rhymes with shmishminashrom. You know how the Biden would like sniff the children? He's sniffing that life force out of the children, putting fear into children. You can soak in that life force from them, that shmishminashrom. I think getting ran through by 1,000 guys is the opposite of that. They are getting your life force out of you. So at the end, you look like Skeletor. This is why Bonnie looks like Skeletor right here. And now she's pregnant. Next. Africa before $2 billion in U.S. aid. Africa after $2 billion in U.S. aid. They got 2 huts now. They went from 1 hut to 2 huts. That's what $2 billion buys you in Africa is 1 more hut. We were near. I germinated all my peppers, habanero ghost, 7 bubblegum. I'd send some if able. Got 70. You have 75 plants? How much property do you have, Dean? You making some sauce? We got our stimulus checks from JS for the memberships. Yeah, I didn't get what is that? Am I Doge? Am I paying you guys a refund? What is this? What is this? Next. Democracy is the will of the majority. So is gang grape. I said grape. Gang grape. Gang grape. Gang grape. Democracy is the will of the majority. So is gang grape. Next. New show on MSNBC, Inside Jen Psaki. Inside Jen Psaki. Who wants to get inside Jen Psaki? You are the father. Next. President Trump signs an executive order that allows straight white people in commercials again. Let's go. Let's go, guys. Straight white people in commercials again. Next. Here's a little song I wrote called Your Conspiracy Theorist Friend Was Right and You Owe Them an Apology. I'm Kermit the Frog here. I used to do a way better Kermit the Frog impression. Then I went through puberty. My voice changed. Now I can't do it as good. Here's a little song I wrote called Your Conspiracy Theorist Friend Was Right and You Owe Them an Apology. It's not easy being green. I bet she's gonna self-delete. Who that Rose or that lady that got ran through? She probably gonna self-delete the baby. Next. Yeah, first they hated me because I didn't take the Vaseline, and now they hate me because I was right about the Vaseline. Guys, exercise intolerance. Exercise intolerance. Next. It's been called the Gulf of Mexico for centuries. It's been called the Gulf of Mexico for centuries. We've been calling it the Gulf of Mexico. We should keep calling it the Gulf of Mexico. Cool story, bro. Now do genders. They've been called male and female for centuries. We should just keep calling them male and female. Yeah. Gender has been synonymous with sex for centuries. It's the same thing. It's always been the same thing. It's always been the same thing, Moon Man. Gender has always been interchangeable, synonymous with sex for centuries. Now all of a sudden, it's not. Oh, but it's been called the Gulf of Mexico for centuries. Oh. Cool story, bro. Cool story, bro.
No, that doesn't work either.
Next. Remember, it takes two people to ruin a relationship. So blame her and her mother for raising her that way. You did nothing wrong, King.
It's a man, baby.
That's right. That's right. Next. Delta Airlines flight attendants practice new landing techniques. She's upside down. What are you doing on a plane right now? You doing yoga on the plane right now? Why are you practicing landing upside down? We got that story in rapid fire, guys. Don't worry. We got the story in rapid fire. We will get to it. And there's more memes about it. Hold on. All right. Gulf of Bintok. Very nice, Kermit. Thank you. Must be an Australian plane. They're upside down. You're right. Next. From NPR, some white people may choose the yellow thumbs up because it feels neutral. But some academics argue opting out of the white thumbs up signals a lack of awareness about white privilege, akin to society associating whiteness with being raceless. I never even realized that I do use the yellow one. So I'm actually using an Asian thumbs up. And why don't they have a red one? Red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in his sight. Jesus loves the little children of the world. Where's the red one? Where's the red man? But yeah, I use the yellow one, which means I've been doing an Asian thumbs up this whole time. The stubborn one's got the right one. Rob's got the right one. White power. Oh, I shouldn't say that. That's a joke, YouTube. Just okay symbol. Okay symbol. It's okay to be white, guys. No, but you know why I use the yellow one? Because it on a white background, you can actually see it. This is like an albino person. If you use this one on like a white background, if you're in dark mode, it stands out. Stands out like a pair of teeth on a dark night on a never mind. You know what I'm saying. But on a white background, if you're in light mode, this one, you can't even see it. It blends in. So you got to use the yellow one so it pops. This one is like albino guy. This is powder. It's invisible. So, I use the yellow one because the white one.
No, that doesn't work either.
Yep. Next. Actually, I'm more tan. I would use this one. But I just use the first one that pops up, which is the yellow one. I think they ordered it by IQ level. The order that they show up on the thing. Next. Patrick Blumenthal. Why have I never seen a Native American restaurant? Gonzo said, it's hard to get a reservation these days. Oh, doo-doo-ch. Doo-doo-ch. Nice. Next. How to kindly tell someone your child doesn't need to see a drag show. Kneecap them.
It's a man, baby.
Kneecap their ass. Let's go. What's chat saying? It was always yellow. Yeah, I use the yellow. Yeah, most people use the yellow. That means you don't acknowledge white privilege. Your white privilege tells you that you're allowed to just culturally appropriate yellow thumbs up. To attribute race to it is racist. Funny thing is, emojis were developed without race in mind and were just originally yellow due to their choice, probably because it stands out against the usually black text. Yes, exactly. And I didn't even have to read anything to know that. That's just common sense. It pops. Next. Everybody used to be yellow. Girls, want to go to the bathroom together? Oh my God, yes, let's go. Let's go to the bathroom together. Boys, want to go to the bathroom together? Why are you gay? Why are you gay? This guy looks at you. Please tell me, why are you gay? Asking to go to the bathroom with me. What the? Beta! Next. Mommy, why do leftists want to disarm American citizens? Because they intend to do things that American citizens would want to shoot them for. Ain't that right? The things that they want to do, that's why they want to take your guns, because the things they want to do to America, we would shoot them for. So when they come for your guns, just tell them.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Next. If the Titanic really hit an iceberg, how come there's no pieces of an iceberg ever found in the wreckage? Dun, dun, dun.
You ain't got the answers, man. I've been doing this more than you. You ain't been doing the education.
Bro.
I love that. I love that. I've been doing this more than you. You ain't been doing the education. The yellow is Simpsons appropriation. Facts. Facts. The Simpsons are yellow. Next. If I spoon-fed my child Vaseline ingredients, I'd be in prison. Think about that. We got a strong nicotine patch. I'm going to get hiccups. Sometimes they're weak. Sometimes they're strong. When they're strong, if I don't have water, which I don't have any water right now, I get hiccups. And I don't have time to go get water. We got to hurry. We're only going to get like 30 minutes for the contingency argument, which is fine. We're not going to spend too much time on it. Next. I would like, I'll tell you in a minute. I think I've done this one before, Star One, but this one is funny. Yesterday, a creep told me that he loved my long hair, so today I cut it. Some guy in the comments says, I love your neck. Girl, you got a nice looking neck, though. Look at that neck. The best part about you cutting your long hair is now I get to look at that beautiful neck. I love your neck, girl. I love that. What that neck do. Show me how that neck worked, though. I love your neck, girl. Uh-oh. Next picture. Yesterday, a creep told me he loved my neck. Decapitation. Nice.
It's a man, baby.
Next. It's now socially acceptable again to clap when the plane lands. We made it. Oh, hallelujah. Thank Jesus. We made it. We made it. We made it. Nice. Next. Plane lands upside down. Pilots. They're in Australia. The world is round. The earth is round, guys. They're in Australia. Now, to be fair, this picture is a joke. The pilot was not a black woman. It was a white girl. Next. Delta adds a little hanging tennis ball to the end of runway for female pilots so they can park the plane. Next. I want Lindsay Lohan to play Allah next. Cynthia Erivo will play Jesus in the rock musical Jesus Christ Superstar at the Hollywood Bowl. Jesus Christ Superstar is going to be played by this lady. Somebody said, I want Lindsay Lohan to play Allah next. You think the Muslims will allow that? Probably not.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Next. Cynthia Erivo to play Jesus in new stage show, but Wicked Stars casting divides fans. Somebody said, what religion are the two producers of this sacrilegious production? You get one guess. Go. Go. I bet it rhymes with Gruslim, Spim, Dooslim, Shmish Mom. I'm totally confused. This is the first I've heard of this. No cap, long neck is smexy. First time you've heard of what? I'll tell him, don't worry, Josh. Next. Dear God, give me a reason to get up early tomorrow to go to work. You're poor. You're poor. Dear God, please tell me why I should go to work tomorrow. Hold on. Where's my... Why is it not letting me do this? Is it here? Oh, man. Why is it not letting me, Oh, it's not letting me do my thing. Oh, yeah, here we go. Dear God, please give me a reason to go to work tomorrow when I wake up. You're poor. Because you are poor and depressed and a loser. Go to work. Get a job. Okay. All right. Next. Democrats warn Trump's unelected shadow government is dismantling their unelected shadow government. Dun, dun, dun. Breaking. Elon Musk and Doge have discovered that there are 394 million Social Security recipients in the U.S., despite the country having only 334 million citizens, a discrepancy of more than 60 million. Think you've seen fraud? You've seen nothing yet. Let's look at some of these numbers. There's no evidence of waste or fraud in government programs. Who's getting Social Security? Well, 38 million people from the age of 0 to 9 years old. 44 million, 10 to 19. Let's go up a little higher. How about the 70? What about the people who should be getting the Social Security? 46 million people from ages 60 to 69, 33 million, 70 to 79, 15 million, 80 to 89, 6 million, 90 to 99, 4 million, 100 to 109, 3 million, 110 to 119, 3 million, 120 to 129, 3 million of them? 3 million people, 130 to 130. Wait, what? What is this? 6,000 people from age 170 to 179. Didn't God say that he was limiting the age to 120-ish? 448 people, 190 to 190 years old. We got one person who's 360 to 369 years old on the Social Security rolls. What the? Oh my God. Social Security.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Next. Japan, Utah, Azerbaijan. Cheeseheads. They got cheeseheads. They've been Green Bay Packer fans since the beginning of time. Wow.
No, that doesn't work either.
Next. I think those are dragons. Next. Americans will use anything but the metric system. We're not using the damn commie metric system. Where's my...
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
242 dicks. We're going to measure this board with dick size.
It's a man, baby.
We ain't using no commie metric system. Next. The combination of colors red and yellow makes people hungry. McDonald's, Burger King, Tide Pods, and communism. All known to make people hungry.
Beta!
Next.
I've been broke my whole life. Now money right.
We're moving on. That's it. That's it for the memes. Alarm's going off. See, that means I got to go to work in an hour. All right. Close this. No more memes. Rapid fire. Let's move it right along. We don't have time to dilly-dally. Ain't no time to dilly-dally. Bookmarks. Yes. pause this. This one's funny. Okay. We got some funny reels, and then we got rapid fire news. We're going to burn through the rapid fire news. Y'all ready for this? Let's go. Siren effect on point. I know I don't have my nuke. I don't have my nuke warning sound on my soundboard anymore because they updated voice mod, and now you don't get all the free sounds like dun and whomp and and so I have to do all those myself. But I can still make my own little clips and put them on there, but I don't get the stock sounds. All right. Calling travel is nasty work. Travel.
Hey, balón.
Hey, balón. Travel. This guy's always traveling. This guy's always out here traveling. What the? He doesn't dribble. Next. Look at this. This is crazy. Yo, this is old school wrestling. This chick's about to be decapitated. Where'd her head go?
I've been watching wrestling for a long time. I've seen a lot of cool things, some violent action, but this right here, this might be a homicide. I'm not gonna cap to you. That legit might be a homicide right there. Like what they used to say a couple years ago, she needs some milk. Somebody, he needs some milk. Go get that girl some milk, cause oh my gosh.
Where'd her head go? Watch. Chair. No more head. Where did her head go? She just got decapitated. What the? She had a nice neck, though. Let me tell you something. That girl had a nice looking neck. Okay. What's this one?
Transgender cop car. Look at that.
Toronto. This is a Canadian rainbow cop car, transgender rainbow flag cop car in Canada.
Are you guys cops or you just identify as cops?
Nice. Look at this.
The antelope.
If the antelope survives, I'll let you clap these cheeks tonight. Wait, where are you going? Holy shit!
He saved the antelope.
Damn, now Cheetah's about to eat the antelope.
Cheetah's
If
about
the
to eat the antelope.
survives, I'll let you clap these cheeks tonight. Wait, where are you going?
Look.
Holy shit!
Dude, he rescued the antelope. Let's go. Let's go.
It's a man, baby.
Nice. All right. All right. Rapid fire news. First things first. What are these memes talking about? What's up with all the memes with the upside down plane and the tennis balls on the plane? Earlier in the week, Delta jet flips upside down on a snowy Toronto runway. Speaking of Toronto, speaking of Canada, where they have the gay and transgender police cars, and all 80 aboard survived. So everybody survived, so we can make jokes about this. It's not too soon. Delta Airlines jet flipped on its roof while landing Monday. Look at this picture. That plane's upside down. Have you ever seen Flight with Denzel Washington, where he inverts the plane in order to successfully land it because the like engines blow out and it starts to go into a spin, and in order to keep lift, he flips it upside down, and then he comes in and he lands the plane right side up? Well, he wasn't flying this plane. You know who was flying this plane? Kendall Swanson. Here's Kendall. Kendall Swanson was flying this plane. She landed upside down. Unconfirmed reports suggest that 26-year-old Kendall Michelle Swanson was the pilot. She can't parallel park. So what made you think that she could land a plane right side up? The Delta Endeavor plane that crashed was piloted by Kendall Swanson. A year ago, she was instructor pilot for small propeller aircraft, recently licensed to co-pilot a small jet. Captain, who had a questionable record himself, may have erred trusting her to land the plane. Federal Aviation Administration Airman Certificate Database confirms her ATP certification, but notes that Swanson does not meet the required aeronautical experience to serve as pilot in command.
Girls, come on. Leave the saving the world to the men? I don't think so. I don't think so.
No, we ain't giving no hold. I ain't Romeo and no hold. Making a party, chocolate Barbie, waiting on me for.
This is TikTok. Oh, God, I would not get on that plane. This is nightmare fuel.
You got into Harvard Law?
What, at the car?
So what is your name as a group?
The Click. Click or click? Click.
Guys, all of our lives are in danger if we ever get on a plane. I don't ever want to fly again. I'm going to have nightmares about flying on an airplane tonight. I won't even ride in the passenger seat with a woman driving. If I order an Uber and it says that a woman's coming to pick me up, I'll cancel it and order another one. I'm never getting on a plane again. I'm like terrified. Of course, her name's Kendall. Kendall's boyfriend, Kendall. Oh my God. Oh Lord, guys. Okay. Let's move on. It's rapid fire news. Pope Francis is to remain hospitalized for respiratory tract infection. This is from February 17th. I think he's actually stabilized and he's doing okay by now. But he had infections in both of his lungs. He was not doing good. Pope Francis has a respiratory tract infection that is requiring several days of hospitalization. The 88-year-old was admitted to a hospital in Rome in fair condition on Friday after a week-long bout of bronchitis worsened. Vatican spokesman Matteo Bruni said Monday the Pope has polymicrobial respiratory tract infection that requires further hospitalization and a change in drug therapy. So the Pope's in trouble. 88? He's pretty old. I mean, we can't put him on the list of possible Vaseline candidates because he's 88 years old. You would expect him to have some health issues at 88. He's probably receiving Social Security, even though he's not in America. He's probably on the Social Security rolls. Okay. Local news: the West is changing its approach to homelessness. Utah is leading the way. Are we? Are we? Because there's homeless people everywhere. Over the last decade, chronic homelessness in Utah has nearly quadrupled by some counts. State lawmakers have unanimously approved bills that would orient homeless services towards recovery. Towards recovery? Recovering from homeless? Jesus said, the poor will always be among us. So, but I've talked about this a lot before, how the Democrats make more money if they have more homeless people. So what they do is they do sanctuary cities. They bring in immigrants. They bring in illegal immigrants. It's a multi-pronged attack on Democrat cities where they make money off of having a bigger homeless population. Then they increase the number of Senate and House seats that they have and the number of that they have on their electoral colleges based off of population for having illegal immigrants there so that Democrats can win more elections. And then the other benefit of this is what they do. They control the migration of the homeless population. So they'll get the homeless people to move to a certain area. And what it'll do is it'll devalue the land. It will lower the housing prices in the area. People will start moving out. People don't want to live there. Nobody wants to, and they'll artificially raise the housing costs in that area so that the homeless people can't get housed, and so that the people who are housed don't want to live there because it's more expensive and there's homeless people everywhere. So they move out, and now they can come in and they can buy up all that land, and then they can basically gentrify it, and then they can rebuild it and make a new, nicer part of the city, and they'll move the homeless people to the next spot that they want to change. And I've watched this happen in Utah. It happens all over the place. State lawmakers have unanimously approved bills that would orient homeless service towards recovery. I don't know what they mean by recovery. If it's people who are on drugs, if you force them into rehab, what happens is they end up getting out and dying from drug overdoses because they lose their tolerance and they come out and do what they're used to doing and they die. Forced rehabs don't work. Forcing someone into recovery services doesn't work. Free housing doesn't work. They end up just destroying. They'll build like nice apartment complexes and they'll fill it with homeless people. And within a month, it's totally ruined. And they break the walls. They destroy everything. They sell drugs out of there. It turns into a cesspool. One of the buildings that they used to move homeless people into, somebody was cooking meth in there and it ended up catching on fire. So then all the homeless people who had moved in and started hoarding all their crap in their apartments lost it all in a fire, and then they were homeless again 6 months later. The solution is they need Jesus. They need Jesus. Christians do charity, but at some point, like the homeless people, these type of homeless people are not the same as the homeless people in Jesus' time. These are not, when he said the poor will always be among us, these aren't the type of people he was talking about. These people, if you give them money, you are enabling them to do more drugs, and it's not helping the situation. There are homeless people who, maybe they got hurt, they lost their job, maybe they lost their wife, and they took the kids, and they got depressed, and then they become homeless. There's lots of, I'm not going to say valid reasons to be homeless, but there's more valid reasons why some people are homeless. But I'd say that's the minority, maybe 20%. I think the majority is, and I looked into the numbers on this. I don't agree with the numbers, but it's something like 33% is drug addiction, but 33% can still be a majority if there's more than two criteria. And the criterias are there's I forget. There's mental illness, there's physical disabilities, there's disabilities, basically disabled people who become homeless. Then there's drug addicts. Then there's people who went through financial adversity, they call it. And then there's one other category. But what they don't do, they separate the two. And what they don't realize is when you're polling these people or when you're doing these surveys on the homeless people, they're trying to get money from the government. So they're going to say, I have a mental disability. I went through a hard time and I lost my house. What they're not likely to say is that I'm homeless because I'm addicted to drugs. They're not going to tell the people who are doing these surveys that, because then they don't get the money. So they're not going to say that. So that's why the number seems lower. I think it's an artificially low number. I think in reality, the ones who are mentally ill a lot of the times because they've been doing drugs their whole life. And the ones who went through financial adversity because of drugs and alcohol that they were doing for their whole life. And the ones who are on drugs are homeless because they've been doing drugs for their whole life. I think that's the vast majority of them. And not 33%, more like 90% are on drugs. And then there's like 10%, 10 or 20% that like, okay, I see how you ended up homeless. But those people want to get off the streets. And so they're going to be doing things to get off the streets. And they can actually be, I think a while ago I read that 70% of homeless men were working or had jobs, whether it be under the table or, taxpayers. But a lot of them work under the table. A lot of them will go stand outside of Home Depot. A lot of them go to labor ready and day labor places. So a lot of them are working and have jobs. But it's a vast majority are just drug addicts, and they don't care if they're homeless. A lot of them like being homeless. They don't want to, and they're not going to go to the shelters because the shelters have security guards that watch for people who are doing drugs, and you can't do drugs in the shelter, so they don't go to the shelter. Duh. I think people are like blatantly obtuse about this to deny it, especially lefties. Like this guy, bruh. Like if you spot it, you got it. I used to got it, and I can spot it. I can spot it. That dude do some drugs. Don't lie to me. AOC said we could solve homelessness if homeless people would just go and buy homes. Dude, she's so smart. Check this out. Ex-Proud Boy leader Enrique Tarrio arrested for assault in D.C. He just got out of prison. He just got pardoned. Old Enrique here. First thing he does is he goes to a protest against the Proud Boys. So they were having a protest in D.C. about all the Proud Boys being pardoned. And he goes to the protest, and he ends up getting in a fight with somebody, and now he's back in jail. Which tells me, which I think Tarrio's a Fed. I never liked Tarrio. I wasn't never a Proud Boy, but for the sake of YouTube, I was never affiliated. But I'm talking pre-Tarrio. I'm talking McGinnis days. Tarrio was a Fed, and as soon as he came in, it got super gay. I only know about this from research I've done. I don't know from experience. Just some things I heard. Former leader of the far-right extremist group, the Proud Boys, was arrested by U.S. Capitol Police for assault on Friday. Enrique Tarrio is accused of assaulting a woman who was protesting. He smacked up a woman. Oh, no. For assaulting a woman who was protesting the release of him and other January 6 rioters, thousands of who were pardoned by President Donald Trump on his first day in office. Now, I'm going to be fair, though. Do we have video of this incident? We have pictures of him being arrested. Is there any video of the incident? Because I know how these Antifa lefty types are. And I know it's in the Proud Boys like doctrine that you only fight back. It's part of the, what's it called? I don't know. I forget the word for it, but it's part of their constitution or their creed that they don't start fights. You fight back. You go there to defend people against Antifa, and if they attack, you fight back. So I'm just trying to be fair here. I also think Enrique Tarrio is a Fed infiltrator. He's an op. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he just punched some woman in the face and now he's in jail to make Proud Boys, seem like violent agitators and blah, 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 blah. But it's possible she was some crazy lady who was up in his face, touching him and smacking him, and he pushed her or something. I don't know. We would have to see video before I could actually make a... Tarrio had just left a press conference at the Capitol with dozens pardoned January 6 defendants. He was exchanging info with a photographer when the incident occurred. Is it on video? Here's the group just before the press conference. But if he's talking to a photographer, why is there no video of the incident? See, I don't know what's going on here. I have questions about this. I think he's a Fed. And I think it's weird that they're at a thing where there's cameras everywhere. I guarantee you there was cameras everywhere. And he's talking to a photographer. And the incident happens. He might have not been able to tell that it was a female. That's true too. I didn't even think about that. Or maybe it wasn't actually, maybe it just identified as a female. Maybe it was actually a big brawny dude who came up and got in his face, and he justly fought back. But of course they're going to lock him up. So I'm trying to be fair. I don't know, but I don't trust this guy. Honestly, not really a fan of him. I'm not even really a fan of the Proud Boys in general anymore. Not that I ever was a fan of them, I don't support this stuff, but but I definitely don't like. Well, I don't dislike him, but I'm not a fan of Tario. I think he's a Fed. That's my point. And unless we have video of this incident, then I don't really know what else to say about that. Anyway, close that. Muswave's chainsaw and charms conservatives talking up Trump's cost-cutting efforts. He was with Milei. He met with Milei. He did a conference, and Milei was there. That's the Argentinian guy, prime minister or whatever he is in Argentina, the guy that waves the chainsaw. They call him like the South American Trump. And Elon pulled out the dang chainsaw, let his brains all dangling from his neck, but his head barely hangs on. Blood, guts, guns, cuts, knives, lies, wise, none, slut, trying to kill you. Let's watch this. He's so autistic.
Who else is here? Well, President Milei has a gift for me.
Javier Milei from Argentina. You guys know who that is, right?
Give him the chainsaw, Javier. Look at that. That's a nice chainsaw. Rev it, Elon can't start that thing. I guarantee you Elon can't start that thing.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
Elon has no idea how to start that.
That's all this gold at Fort Knox. It's the public's gold.
Also, it's probably not a real chainsaw. It probably doesn't even start.
Gold. It's your gold. So, like, I think you have like a right to see it.
You want to take a tour?
You know, yeah. I think we should have do a tour. And then the president last night was like, "That's not." I think he's in favor of it. That would be cool. And then it should be like a live tour. Like you can see what's going on. Open the door. Like, what's behind it.
So there's Elon, chainsaw wielding Elon. Okay, Dan Bongino. Trump says Dan Bongino is going to be the new FBI deputy director. Podcaster and ex-Secret Service agent Dan Bongino will be FBI deputy director, Trump says. Dan Bongino, a former Secret Service agent turned right-wing podcaster, has been named the next deputy director of the FBI. Crazy. President Donald Trump. I like Dan. The latest outsider media personality the president has chosen to be in a significant position of power overseeing large branches of complex government organizations. Wild. FBI director traditionally is a position held by a career FBI agent. The choice of making Bongino is a sign of blowback toward the interim FBI leadership over its week-long standoff with Emil Bove, the acting deputy attorney general, over his demand for names of FBI agents involved in January 6th and Trump-related investigations. Holy cow, that's the strongest Dang, nicotine back. I rap. Woo. So Dan Bongino, FBI director. That's crazy. Joy Reid's gone. Conservatives say good riddance to Joy Reid's MSNBC show as liberals slam network shakeup. Conservative commentators said good riddance to Joy Reid's show, The Ride Out. Joy Ride? Is it Joy Ride? The Ride Out? On Sunday after the network announced that they had canceled the far-left host's nightly program as liberals criticized the network's decision. This guy, Keith Olbermann, former MSNBC star Keith Olbermann, accuses network of racism for dropping Joy Reid. Maybe she just sucked and nobody watched her show because it was dumb. And it's not racist to get rid of her. She said a bunch of racist stuff all the time. She said the election was stolen. She said it in a very slick way. She's like, I'm starting to think maybe they could hack ballot boxes. I don't know. Over the weekend, it was reported that Reid, who has been with MSNBC for over a decade, was not only losing her weekend broadcast amid a programming shakeup, but that she was also out of the network. The abrupt cancellation of Reid's show has left staffers shaken and frustrated, especially as the program's production staff is also being terminated, though they are encouraged to apply for new jobs at the network. The Reid Out, will air its final episode this week. It will subsequently be replaced by a panel show hosted by former Kamala Harris spokesman Simone Sanders Townsend, former Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Steele, and anchor Alicia Mendez. The trio currently helms The Weekend, which airs on Saturday. Nobody watches that crap. Ain't nobody trying to watch none of that stuff. All right, guys, that's it for the rapid fire news. It's 8:30. If I take a Uber, let me look at something real quick. I got to check the bank account. If I can not use an Uber, that would be nice. But if I have to go a little long, I can take a Uber. Just need to check my budget real quick. Echo, what you doing? If we have to, we'll take the Uber. I'd rather not, but Joy Reid's name is pronounced Joy Reid. That's what I thought. So her show is The Reid Out. But it seems like she wanted it to be like The Ride Out. But I guess read out like reading the news. The Reid Out? That's dumb. It's a dumb show name. I never watched it. I only see clips. Like when Sky News is doing lefty freakouts, I often see clips of her. What you doing, Echo? Yeah, I do have to take an Uber because I got to walk this guy after I'm done. Okay, let's get into the last little segment of the show here. We're going to be talking about the contingency argument for God's existence. So let me open this folder. We're going to watch a shorter video and then a longer video where Trent Horn gets in depth. And it's a little complicated, but then we're going to watch a short video that explains it. First, I'm going to read some things to you. So basically, the idea is things are either necessary or contingent. Contingent means they could have not existed. So it's possible that it didn't necessarily have to exist. If something's necessary, then in every possible universe, this thing would have to exist. Whereas a contingent thing is something, and so this is like logic, for example, the laws of logic, math, metaphysical things that are concepts that are existent without a human mind to comprehend them, that still exist, that we would acknowledge still exist without a human mind to comprehend them. These things are necessary for existence. So for a universe to exist, we have to have the laws of logic. Now, atheists don't seem to understand that when they argue that something like logic or math is a necessary thing, that they're also making an argument for God's existence, because even if there was no human mind, those things would still exist. Therefore, a mind exists, which is God. But the contingency argument says that there are some things that are not necessary to exist. They're contingent on something else. So they could have not existed. The universe would be contingent. There is a possible world where there is no universe. Now, what would that universe look like? Ask an atheist. Don't ask me, because I don't believe in it. I don't believe there's multiple universes. I do believe the universe is contingent, because if God didn't want to make a universe, God didn't have to make a universe. But ask an atheist what a possible universe looks like without a universe. They're not going to be able to even fathom what that's like, because there wouldn't be a mind there to fathom what it could be like. So the idea is, since the universe could have possibly not existed, it's contingent on something to make it exist. Why it exists? Because it's contingent on something else. So, and when you see, this coffee cup existing, this coffee cup could not exist. There's a possible world where this Leonardo mug does not exist, right? But this coffee mug does exist. So it's contingent, which means it requires a necessary cause for its existence. So this contingency argument ties in with the Kalam cosmological argument, and it ties in with the ontological argument and the modal argument. I believe it's the modal. Let me see real quick. I have it in a folder. There's another one that starts with an M, but I don't think it's modal. It's hold on. Fine tuning, Kalam cosmological, ontological. I think I'm just thinking of the ontological argument, is what I'm thinking of. Yeah, I'm just thinking of the ontological argument. Yeah, so it ties in with the ontological argument. And kind of with the Kalam cosmological argument, the idea that since the universe exists and it's contingent, its existence is contingent, means that something had to have caused it. It was caused by something. This coffee cup is contingent. It could have not existed, but since it exists, we know that there was a cause for it existing. What's the cause? Well, somebody thought people would probably like to have a Leonardo coffee mug. And so I'm going to make a Leonardo coffee mug. And so some factory guy or something designed this and created this so that I would have a coffee mug. And my coffee mug is contingent on being created. If it hadn't been created by that guy, then it wouldn't be here. The universe is contingent, meaning it could have not existed, but it does exist. Why does it exist? Well, there's a cause for its existence. And if there's a cause for its existence, then it must have been created by something outside of time, outside of space, outside of our physical conceptions of the physical world, something outside of all that. That's God. So this is a argument for God's existence, not necessarily an argument for the Christian God. So the way you work through these arguments, I've explained it before, is with the Kalam, with the ontological argument, with the contingency argument. You use these to get the atheist or the person, the agnostic, to agree that the universe had a beginning with the Kalam, the universe had a cause with the contingency argument, and also the ontological argument. Once they agree to that, then you use, and also you could use fine tuning, and then you use the argument from the resurrection to, once you can get them to concede, okay, there could be a God. I guess, yeah, there could be a God that created all this. Then to get them to the side of the Christian God, the God of Abraham, you use the argument from the resurrection. You show the evidences of the resurrection, the historicity behind the Bible, extra biblical sources that reference Christ, things like that. Hello, Echo. Joy Reid's name. Oh, I already read that. So the contingency argument states that since the universe and everything with it is contingent, meaning it could have not existed, there must be a necessary being, which is often identified as God, that explains why anything exists at all, essentially arguing that in a contingent universe requires a necessary cause for its existence. Also, the example that I use to kind of explain this, and this is a different way of saying it, but it's kind of the same concept. So you could say the existence of this mug is contingent on my perception of the mug. So I'm able to see and touch and look at the mug and feel the mug. I know that it's real. I'm holding it. Now, unless we go into solipsism and we say I could be a brain in a vat and all the sensory perception could just be programming that's put into my head. Let's avoid simulation theory and solipsism and all that. Let's say we know this is real because I can hold it and I can look at it and I can touch it. I know it's real. But is its existence contingent on my ability to perceive it? If I set it on the table and I leave the room, is it still there? Even though it's contingent on my perception of it, but I'm not in the room, I can't see it. Does that mean it ceases to exist? Most people would agree, unless you want to get solipsistic about it. Most people would agree that it still exists. It's still on the table existing, even though it's contingent. Its existence is contingent on my ability to perceive it. Even if I'm not there to perceive it, it still exists. Why? Because there's another mind outside of my mind that's always observing everything. That's why it still continues to exist. Because if its existence is contingent on the ability to perceive it, and I can't perceive it, or I die, or we all die, does it still exist? Yes. Why? Because the perceiver is God. So that's the breakdown. This ties in with the principle of sufficient reason. And so this is the idea that with something like a coffee cup, it's not hard to figure out the contingency of this. We could say it's contingent on the guy in the factory that made it. It's contingent on my ability to hold it. It's contingent on my ability to use it. So we can figure out how this is created. With a coffee cup, you don't need a lot of sufficient reason to figure out why this exists. But the bigger and more impactful something is, the more important and necessary you need sufficient reasoning to be able to explain its existence. And what's the biggest thing that we need to know why it exists? The universe. So you need a very big reason to justify a very big contingency. Something like this, I don't need a lot of sufficient reason to explain why this exists. It's not hard to figure out. Something like the universe, you're going to need a very, very, very sufficient reason to explain why such a enormous thing exists like the universe. And that's God. The only thing powerful enough to sufficiently reason why the universe exists would be God. But I'm going to read this from Oxford. Contingency is a term that occurs in philosophical discourse as well as in theology in a number of contexts and with a number of meanings. In its modern sense, the English term contingency refers to events, processes, or properties that may occur but are not certain to occur, or that have but might not have occurred, because they depend on factors beyond our knowledge or which themselves are contingent. They depend on factors. I already read that. Generally speaking, it refers to events, objects, and properties that could be otherwise, that do not have to be as they are, and that do not have to be at all. And for those whose existence we cannot give sufficient cause. Thus, contingency covers a whole range of meanings, including not necessary, by chance, random, and unpredictable. In the discourse on science, the debate pivots on questions of determinism versus indeterminism. In physics, especially in quantum physics and in systems theory, on the contingent character of the cosmos and its fundamental physical laws, and on the questions of whether the development of evolution and the actual forms of life that result from it are merely coincidental in biology. Some have referred to the first form of contingency as normological, and to the second as local contingency. And that's Robert J. Russell, Contingency in Physics and Cosmology, a critique of the theory of Wolfhart-Pannenberg. The alternative is between physical determinism, all events necessary follow from a prior initial condition, so the contingency only refers to a lack of knowledge, and indeterminism, some events are not determined by prior conditions, hence contingency is an ontological fact. In religion and theology, contingency often marks the fundamental difference between the creator and the creation. It is used in ontological and cosmological proofs of the existence of God in the sense that all created beings cannot account for their own existence, but in their contingency point to a creator who is not contingent, but the necessary ground of his or her own being. Meaning, the universe is contingent. The creator of the universe is necessary. In order for a contingent universe to exist, it must have a cause, and that causer must be necessary. So the God that creates the universe is a necessary thing. There's no possible world where God does not exist, because for the possible world to exist contingently, you need a necessary creator. Necessary meaning it has to be. Their own being, creator, not contingent, but necessary ground of his or her own being. However, it is disputed whether such a conclusion is valid or itself contingent. Another divide is between those who argue for total divine predestination. God determines everything that happens. Again, contingency is only a human category regarding insufficient knowledge and insight. And those who argue that God leaves some things to chance or being determined autonomously by created entities. A consequence of the latter view seems to be that God cannot have sufficient foreknowledge with regard to the process of creation, so that God's omniscience and omnipotence seem in danger. Oh, look at that. Doesn't it always come back to that? On the other hand, the option of total predestination faces the problem that in its view, the creator seems to be responsible for everything, including all evil. Good arguments. Good arguments. Look at that. It even ties in with free will. Look at that. So the important question is Leonardo your favorite turtle? No, Raphael's my favorite turtle, but they didn't have a Raphael mug. So the Leonardo was necessary, but Raphael was contingent, I guess. Okay. But the Bible says God created evil, so I don't know. I'm just saying. Not really a good argument, but it is a good argument to say that you're questioning God's omnipotence and his omniscience if you don't believe that he determined everything. Anyway, and that is the contingency stuff, the sufficient reason or sufficient cause that I was talking about. We're going to read a little bit about that. The modern formulation principle is usually ascribed to early Enlightenment philosopher Gottfried Leibniz. Leibniz formulated it, but was not an originator. The idea was conceived of and utilized by various philosophers who preceded him, including Anaximander, Parmenides, Archimedes, Plato, Aristotle, Cicero, Avicenna, Thomas Aquinas. Thomas Aquinas is actually he has his 5 proofs of God. And this is one of them. The contingency argument is one of Aquinas' 5 proofs. And Spinoza, I think Aquinas is the ontological. He didn't come up with the Kalam cosmological. He came up with the ontological, the contingency, and I forget the other ones. I want to read. I'm going to have to get his book, The 5 Proofs for God. How should I use it? I don't know what that means, Dean. And Spinoza, often pointed to as Anselm of Canterbury, this phrase, quia deus nihil sine ration facit, because God does nothing without reason, and the formulation of the ontological argument for the existence of God. A clearer connection is with the cosmological argument for the existence of God. The principles can be seen in both Thomas Aquinas and William of Ockham. Notably, the post-Kantian philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer elaborated the principle and used it as a foundation of his system. Some philosophers have associated the principle of sufficient reason with ex nihilo nihil fit. Nothing comes from nothing. Nothing comes from nothing. So ask an atheist, how do you get something from nothing? William Hamilton identified the laws of inference, modus ponens, with the law of sufficient reason, or of reason and consequent, and modus tollens with its counterpositive expression. So sufficient reason, concept. So the contingency argument, the ontological argument, the cosmological argument, they all kind of tie together. Anyway, let's watch a quick video. They're just going to say the same things I just said. We'll watch a short video, and then we'll watch a longer video, and I'll play it in like 1.5.
The contingency argument for God's...
This is a short video. This is speed run of the contingency argument. He's going to do it faster than I just did it. Nice full screen share.
Existence. Okay, so here's some intuitive facts about contingency. First, contingent means something could either exist or not exist. Most objects we encounter in everyday life are contingent. They didn't need to exist. Next, contingent things always have an existence which is dependent upon some other thing. Lastly, a group of contingent things is itself always contingent and dependent on something. So if we take the group of all contingent things, it must depend on the existence of something. But is this thing contingent? No, because then it would be part of the group of all contingent things.
Be
so
necessary.
It must be non-contingent or necessary. A necessary thing cannot fail to exist. It must exist. Final note, all space-time and matter seem contingent, so there must be some necessarily existing, spaceless, timeless, and immaterial entity upon which all contingent reality depends.
See that? Space, time, and matter are contingent, so the universe is contingent. The universe could have not existed. It's possible. There's a possible world where the universe didn't have to exist. Space, time, and matter are contingent. There's not necessarily that they had to exist. They could have not existed. So if space, time, and matter are contingent, then something outside of space, outside of time, so outside of space, outside of time, and not material, that is necessary, had to have caused them to be, and that would be God.
Which sounds suspiciously like God. That's the end of this video. Thanks for watching.
That was a speed run of the contingency argument. Now we're going to watch Trent Horn talk about it a little more in depth on Pints with Aquinas. And then I also, we're not going to get to this, but maybe we'll review this in a stream with a panel or something later, and I'll see what people think about it. But I also have
arguments from.
I also have Matt Dillahunty in a 35-minute video debunking the contingency argument or arguing against the contingency argument. So maybe we'll review this in a future stream. We're not going to watch this today, but so just so you guys know, in my research, in my folder, I do look at the opposition. I do look at the rebuttals. I study the rebuttals. This is why people will say, oh, you say a lot of things like atheists say. Well, yeah, because I study atheists. I study atheists and I study their arguments to learn how to defeat them. So I will say things that will sound like what atheists say, but I'm going to say it. I'm saying it with a purpose to debunk it. And I will be more effective in convincing an atheist of something than they will. I promise you that. Let's watch this.
Best argument for God's existence then? What's the one you... So we're going back to the former days of apologetics now. We're kind of through the arguments. Give me a good argument for God's existence and let me see if I can pick holes in it.
Yeah, I think that... well, I mean, we could play around with the contingency argument. I'm becoming more and more of a fan of it.
What is it?
Well, it's just basically what we said before, that when it comes to whether the universe has an explanation or not, it either has no explanation, it explains its own existence, or it's explained by something else.
Yep.
And we both agreed that those are the only three
possible options.
And I believe that it is explained by something else is far more plausible than the other two.
Okay.
First, to say simply that the universe has no explanation seems to violate what we call the principle of sufficient reason.
Okay.
That when things exist, We look for the reasons why they exist. And this principle seems to govern our lives. It's what science is founded on. Scientists say, they don't just say, well, maybe there's just no explanation for why this thing exists. Even if you have things like quantum particles that pop into it.
He talks kind of fast, but I got to play it in 1.25 because this is 12 minutes and I got to end the stream in 10 minutes.
Existence.
Yes.
There may be an explanation that is indeterminate. So we don't know the exact causes behind it, but we understand the causal framework that these virtual particles come into existence because of the properties that can be seen in a quantum field or a quantum vacuum. And so it is within those special circumstances this object can come into existence, even though we can't necessarily predict when the field will emit these virtual particles, just as we can't predict when Matt Fradd will say what he does on his podcast. There's things that are indeterminate. But here...
They're computationally irreducible.
Another example I sometimes give is from...
Well, just let's pause it for 1 second.
Sure.
So in this regard, that would be like saying we look around at everything in the universe and we say it must have an explanation. But then when we get to the universe itself, we say, well, no explanation is needed. And that's what you're saying we probably shouldn't do.
We probably shouldn't do, because I would say that once again, and this is to borrow from another philosopher, I think his last name is Taylor. He says, if you found a glowing orb on the ground,
that's right.
You'd wonder, what is it?
Yeah.
Why does it exist? If it was larger, it was the size of a planet, you wonder why it exists. As the size of the object gets larger, our sense of wondering why it exists only expands. And there's no reason why we should stop asking that question when we get to, if it was the size of the universe, we would still ask the
And you need more sufficient reason to explain the universe than you do
be when it comes to the nature of explanation
the ball
itself.
on the ground.
I mean, if the principle of sufficient reason wasn't true, we would expect there to be many more unexplained things, things popping in and out of existence for no reason. But we don't experience that. The universe is extremely regular in that regard. And I believe that provides more evidence that the principle of sufficient reason is true and undergirds reality as we know it. Sherlock Holmes once said, which was actually quoted by Spock in one of the Star Trek movies, he says, an ancestor of mine once said, when you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the answer.
Right.
Now, if PSR wasn't true, we could say
what that is, PSR.
The principle of sufficient reason, that things that exist. Now, I'm not saying everything that happens as an explanation.
Okay.
Now, an objection.
Why not?
Well, because you could make an objection that sometimes things happen there's not really a reason for certain events. So if you have a ball on a perfectly sharp point.
So you mean like random things? Random things happen?
An infinitely sharp cone. And there's a ball sitting here.
Yeah.
And it rolls right or it rolls left. Why does it go right instead of left? And it's infinitely sharp. I don't know. There may not be a reason for why that event happens. But I'm citing the reason that a thing
if God's real, there is a reason.
Rather than non-existent. It's a limited principle of sufficient reason. I think then that there are...
The reason is because that's the way God wanted it to go.
So with Sherlock Holmes, you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, who knows? There could be no explanation. That would always be on the table that we could have. So I think that, and other atheists that have looked at this, looked at the universe and looked at this argument, I know some of them said, sure, maybe there is an explanation. Okay, but I'm not saying that it's God. Okay. But now this gets interesting. Now we're moving into...
Yeah. Well, what do you say to those who say there is no explanation, it's just a brute fact? What does a brute fact mean, and how does that violate the...
Well, that would just be a way of saying, once again, it's no explanation. But brute fact is just something that is true, and we accept it, and it's just the way,
no reason
that's
for
just
it.
the way
So
it
that's
is.
just saying there's no explanation.
It's just another way of saying it. So the next step would be to say, well, the reason the universe exists is because it's necessary. It has to exist.
Okay.
It's just impossible for the universe.
What's another
not
example of something that has to exist?
Well, that's where it gets tricky. Because most things we're used to don't have to exist. They're contingent. They depend on other things in order to exist. I think a lot of people would say that if numbers exist, they would be necessary.
Yep.
That any universe, any possible world, there would be something true. There would be the same truth in any possible world. That would be there is one possible world. So you'd have the number one. When you have that, you can start doing other mathematical truths. So numbers would be an example of something that are consideed to be necessary.
So if the universe exists,
but logic is just another way of saying God.
Could it be? If that were the case, then it could not be different to the way it is now. Is that true?
Well, let's dive through this a little bit. I would say the universe could certainly be very different, especially in the sense that it doesn't have to exist. Because I would ask, how do we know other things are contingent? Contingent means it depends on something else to exist. It could have not existed, or it could continue to fail to exist. So we can imagine that those things don't exist. We can it's conceivable that they do not exist. And in our own universe, we can conceive of less and less and less things in it until we get to basically nothing. Now, I think some people would say, well, yeah, the universe could have been different, but there would still be a universe of some kind. It would still have the same fundamental components. The universe is like a Lego bin. You can make different...
And this is how Alex O'Connor argued this. He said there's no possible world where a universe doesn't exist, so the universe is necessary, because in a possible world where a universe doesn't exist, there would be there's no way to conceive of that. So it breaks his mind. So he says the universe has to exist. It's necessary.
Lego creations, but you'd have the same Legos and
So then you have to get the person to concede, but do you believe the universe had a beginning? And then you use the Kalam cosmological argument and the domino effect to demonstrate that the universe had to have had a beginning or we wouldn't have reached current day. And then they say, okay, well, yeah, the universe began at the singularity. And then they're begging the question, well, where did the singularity come from? Because the singularity is something, not nothing. When do you get something from nothing? What was before the singularity? And they're going to have to say nothing. So how did we get the singularity from nothing? How did we get something from nothing? Nothing comes from nothing. How did we get something from nothing? And they'll say, well, I don't know. I don't know what was before the singularity. Okay, then you say, well, what caused the singularity? Why is it necessary that the singularity existed and not contingent that the singularity existed on something else? And that something else would be God.
the bin.
I see.
Much the same way you'd have the same
Let
fundamental
it be what-
particles.
So if we rewound the kind of film of evolution and played it forward, all sorts of other creatures may have existed.
Sure.
But that wouldn't be to say that the universe isn't necessary. It could just be necessary but different.
Yeah, the elements could be rearranged.
Yeah.
But even here, I don't think that's the case. Why should I think these fundamental particles are necessary? I can conceive of them being different. Their quarks are one of the fundamental things physicists say make up the universe. I think there's 6 different types of them: up, down, top. They have different properties like spin. Surely those could have been different. There's nothing about the universe. Like, for example, when something's necessary, if I ask you, why is that rock warm? That's a question worth asking. I say, oh, because it's by the fire.
Right.
But I say, why is that fire warm? You'd be like,
Because it just is.
well,
It's a fire. It's the
you
nature
would
of
think,
fire.
Yeah, you would think that's not a question to ask.
Yeah.
And so, or the same thing like with a triangle. Why does that triangle have 3 sides? Because
That's
just
what a triangle is.
Yeah. When we ask the question, why is there a universe?
It's necessary
it
that a
does not
triangle have
seem
3
to be
sides.
a straightforward question like why is fire hot or why is a triangle 3-sided? It seems to be a question worth asking.
Yes.
Like why is this triangle blue? Why is this rock warm? And we proceed to try to figure out the answer. Many intelligent people throughout history have tried to find the answer to that. So I think that when all of that is put together, the option that the universe is necessary, it has to
this
exist.
is the Bertrand Russell position, isn't it? Didn't he say that the universe just exists and that's all?
It was brute fact. I don't think he said it was necessary.
Okay.
The universe is just there, and that's
it.
all. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not really accepting an
It's
explanation.
shallow.
That's just trying
So
to get
what
rid
if
of the problem.
what if then the atheist says, okay, maybe there's an explanation, but I don't know what it is and you don't either?
I'd say, well, let's try to figure out what the explanation is. Let's try to think that through and determine some of its properties. And this is something I also do with the Kalam argument. That for many atheists, Matt, what's funny is we don't necessarily debate on Kalam whether the universe began. I'll say, even if it began, I don't think it's God.
Right.
And I'll say, okay, but let's go through the list of candidates.
Right.
Could it be another universe? That's possible.
Yeah.
I am open to the idea that there is a multiverse. That could be very interesting. God is a grand creator. Who knows? He could
I'm
create another
not,
universe.
but-
It's possible. I don't know how many or if he did. But even if our universe exists because of another universe, that once again we're back to the original argument.
Why did that
What
universe?
explains that universe?
The multiverse even.
Yeah, and so it would be the same as asking why is that chandelier up there hanging over our heads? Well, there's a chain. Why is that chain? Another chain. Why that chain? Another chain. An infinite number of chains doesn't explain why it's hanging up at all. You need something that exists in a not chain-like way, the anchor in the ceiling.
The person
Much the
who
same
made
way
it.
a bunch of universes or an infinite number of universes doesn't explain why any of the universes exist at all. Why is there this
Right.
entire
Well,
chain
suppose
of
somebody
existence?
concedes
just
that and says,
eternal-
okay, there must be an
infinite
explanation, it must be
regress.
necessary, but that's a long way away.
So infinite regress, if they'll say, well, it could be a multiverse and our universe exists because of another universe, and then you just say, well, why does that universe exist? Well, because of another universe. Well, why does that universe exist? Because of another universe. Why does that universe exist? Well, because of a singularity. Why does the singularity exist? I don't know. What was before the singularity? Nothing. How did the singularity come from nothing? Got him. That's infinite regress. Eventually, they're going to get back to a point where they have to explain how something came from nothing.
Away from saying it's the Christian God, or even a personal being.
Sure. And what I would say here is then we have to go through the different categories. What kinds of things are there?
And then
that do
that's where you
exist? We can see
explain.
this.
Even if you give them, if you concede on the singularity and the Big Bang and all of that stuff, you concede to the multiverse, you can concede to all these things. Eventually, you can infinite regress them down to something from nothing. And then you show them, then that means that singularity of all that chain of multiverses was contingent because it didn't have to be there, but it did get there somehow from nothing. How did it get there? And if it's contingent and it's physical and it's time and it's space, then you need something outside of time, space, and material to have that is necessary. You need a necessary, timeless, spaceless, immaterial force that created it. And you have God.
This thing, if it's necessary.
And that's the first step. That's just the first step. Now you've proved God. You get them to say, okay, so maybe a God exists. There's some type of force out there that we're going to call God. The next step is to use the argument from the resurrection to convince them that it is Christ and it is the Father.
Necessary,
Yeah.
Then it's not something that is spatial or temporal.
Why?
Because those things they're contingent. They're dependent on other things in order to exist within a space-time framework.
Okay.
So anything that's material is going to be depending on other material forces and entities to constitute what it is, bring it into existence. To be within space and time is be bound by those things. You would be dependent.
Okay.
And so, to be material means you depend upon space to exist. There's no space. There's no
Gotcha.
you. Then if we go forward from that, we would say, okay, whatever this cause is, it's immaterial, it's timeless, it's necessary. It just has to exist in some way. It cannot be dependent on anything else. If it were to depend on something else for its existence, whatever this cause is, it would not be necessary. It would be contingent, and it would have to have causal power because it's the reason things exist. So it can't be an abstract object. It could be.
Is that still true if the universe is infinite in the past? Does it still have to have causal power? Because when
And
we
that's
think of
where you
causal,
go to
especially
the
the
Kalam.
cosmological argument, we're thinking of it like in the domino sort of effect. So when you say causal power, are you referring to sort of the hierarchical series of causes?
What I mean is in the sense that it is able to sustain something in being.
That's
It is
what you mean,
able
yeah.
to.
When people think of cause today, they usually think before and after.
We think temporal.
Temporal.
Yeah, even if the universe were eternal, we would still say, why does this exist?
Okay.
Because of X. Well, X must have some property then of granting existence to something or making it the case this thing exists rather than not exist.
So this necessary thing you're saying we're not necessarily talking about bringing the whole shebang into existence, but that it's causing it now to exist.
Yeah, but I do believe also there's good
Sure.
arguments that it did bring the universe into existence. And so here, what's funny is, so sometimes I remember once I was talking with an atheist on Catholic Answers Live, and I said, well, okay, this cause of the universe then, this is for Kalam, but it would apply to the contingency argument. This cause is either material or immaterial. It was funny, and he would not give me an answer to that question, which is funny because once again, it's the law of the excluded middle. It's got to
Right.
be material or not material.
yeah.
Well, it could be a third thing.
No, it cannot be.
Like
No, it can't.
they're exclusive
Yeah.
because if it can't be material if it made space and time.
Right.
And then if it's immaterial, we're really running out of candidates here for immaterial things that can be causes of other things. The two examples we think of immaterial things that we are aware of are abstract objects and minds.
And what's an abstract object with a mind that's necessary outside of space, time, and material that causes things? God. And there you go. That's the contingency argument for God's existence. And again, that's not the argument for the Abrahamic God. That's just an argument for God's existence. But we've covered the argument from the resurrection to explain why the scriptures are true and why Christ is the Son of God and God is the Father, and why we can know that all that's true. And it is falsifiable. The way you falsify it is you prove that they have to prove that the universe is necessary. See, I can prove falsifiably that God exists. They cannot prove falsifiably that something comes from nothing or that the universe is necessary. So they actually, the atheists, would be making the unfalsifiable argument. I would be making a falsifiable argument. And then when you argue for the God of Abraham, Jesus, God, that's also falsifiable. All you got to do is find Jesus' body. If Jesus rose, then if Jesus didn't rise again, then it's all false. Now, there will still be a God that exists. You're not debunking God with that. You would just be debunking Christianity. If you could prove that Christ didn't rise again, then you would debunk Christianity. But they can't prove that. So there's more proofs. You know, that's why, was it Craig that wrote, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist? It takes a lot more faith to be an atheist than it does to be a Christian. So that's the point with that. We did the contingency argument. One day we'll do tag. It's not my favorite one, but one day we'll do that one because I skipped it I forgot about it when I was doing my arguments for God. Or maybe I skipped it just because a lot of people use that one and I wanted to use ones that maybe people don't use as much. Or I think maybe I did. Did I? I don't remember even if I did it. But anyway, yeah. I got to go, guys. I got to go to work. Thank you for watching. I was hoping to send a raid that was actually a good chunk of viewers, but everybody left. More people are more interested in the news than they are in God's existence. Crazy. I know there's some other streams going on right now that people are probably interested in. All right, I'll send you over to Raging Tomatoes stream because Andrew's debating about gematria there. And that's probably a S show. That's probably a mess. The gematria people are wild. But all right. God bless you guys. Thank you for hanging out. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out. I will see you tomorrow morning for the Bible study. We're going back into Leviticus. We're going to find out about bodily fluids, laws about purity of bodily fluids and babies. Not both of them together, but babies, purity of children, and then purity of, anyway. It's Leviticus. It is what it is. So say hi to Sarah from me, Sarah, and Andrew and all them. And thank you for watching, Jeff Hewitt. I'll see you guys later. God bless. Peace.